But I can pause.
And then the date for purposes for you, so the one that has like the handprints and says Bethany Park and Rec on it, the parent guide. That's one that Nick created new for this year. And then I believe the counselor guide and the staff code of conduct were also new for this year.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And then the single sheets for something that I had just sort of Googled some information and looked at other towns for some format.
Okay.
So each program would have something like this. Essentially, right? Basketball looks different, the baking, whatever looks different, but pretty similar.
Right, so this one is very specific to like the before and after care program.
So
One thing I just want to bring up as I'm looking through it, and I honestly think he did a really good job putting these together. And then maybe I'm missing it, and I very well might be. One thing that I've always noticed that I personally thought was going to become a problem at Park and Rec was a sign in and sign out from the parents. So, you know, as people were kind of running around, and I know Nick started doing this, so I will say he absolutely did start doing it, but for a while it was kind of like drop the kids off, pick them up. There wasn't like an absolute confirm, like sign in, sign out kind of setup, similar like what you have at the school. And I see just the kind of the drop off, but I don't really see something about, and maybe somebody will catch it if I'm missing it, but you know, I think that's going to be an important piece that we need to add in here, is that there needs to really be a confirmation, a drop off. Maybe not necessarily the parent physically signing something, but you know, from the staff ends. And again, I know he was doing, I just don't see it in here where they sign the kid in. And then same thing for pickup, you know, hey, the child was transferred to care of, you know, parent, you know, when they know him face to face, it's fine. But, you know, I think that's really needs to be kind of locked down a little bit.
is there capability in my rec for that? I wonder.
Yes.
Okay.
Like attendance sheets.
Yeah, like, you know,
That's
so like,
every
kind of like what they
summer
do at the
we did
school with the,
physical and digital.
yeah, because like with the school with like an iPad, like we could,
Right.
you know, give an iPad to some designated person if that has that capability. And then be able to,
Well,
Check in
when
and
the
check
kids
out.
pick up at the end of the school day,
Mhm.
is someone actually
Yeah.
standing there with an
She had, like,
iPad or whatever?
when I
Yeah.
click, yeah, when I, there's something there and
Yeah.
so they're not letting you go into, you know.
The pickup patrol software
Yeah.
that they use
Yeah.
has like an option, so
You
when
can
you say
see.
you're gonna pick up, you say who's picking up.
Mhm.
And then the staff member's able to click. They're also able
Yeah.
to do that for each bus as the bus.
Right.
Oh, wow.
They click that the kids are getting on the bus.
Okay.
And Dave, I think that's a good point, right? So like, right, when you use like a daycare and you drop your
Mhm.
child off, like they actually have you either physically sign out or they're saying like, okay, dropped off by
Yeah.
dad at such and such time,
Right.
picked up
Yeah.
by so-and-so at
Yeah.
such and such time. So that would be a good practice to continue, since I think it started, but to definitely make sure it's kind of in our practice going forward. Is that something? So for sure, for like when we get to the point of before and after care, but are we also thinking that that's the practice that like for any other activities?
I think it's gotta be for any, yeah, like if the baking plant, like anything that's happening, that's, yeah.
Right,
That's most of the parents stay there, so that's a little bit easier, right?
right.
And any of the other activities potentially are happening right after school, so there's not necessarily a sign in, but they have to know
The sign
who's
up.
registered for that program, so they know who's being released down for that, like it's baking, yoga, painting, whatever.
Right. And I believe the school provides like an attendance list to that program, right? So like if there's a student who's registered for baking, but that student is absent for the day, they let the baking class
That's
know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Communication is key.
Just before we go any further, like we're discussing the before and after care, is that something that's still on the table for this year or is that
Not
like?
for this year. We
Okay,
are in
so we're-
agreement with the JPC for the
okay.
remainder of this school year, but
So
it is
maybe,
something to consider
Yeah.
because,
We could develop this all
Um,
the time.
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
because we had potentially talked to the JCC about running a satellite kind of thing from here.
Mhm.
But there was a licensure thing and, you know, then they would have to hire like a head teacher and all, there was a lot of other parameters to it,
Okay.
that
So we
it
can
could
just
not
kind
be
of use that
done.
as a guideline for the other
Yeah.
programs.
Right.
essentially.
Yeah,
Right.
but I feel like we're going like, I think we need to go more general for like, you know,
Right.
not like more like Parks and Rec policies and procedures.
But
Cause it could take us forever to look at the, like you're saying, like, look at individual programs, but if there's no overarching thing, then we're gonna be in that situation of
Right.
just really nitpicking things. We know we have, hopefully, summer camp can get going at, you know, by then.
Yeah.
But, and then we have more month, like,
Yeah.
you know, 5, 6 months to really like look at and if there's anything we need to change in that. And then whoever the director is coming on board could very well have experience in some of this and be able to help tweak them. But I do think we need, like, we
Mhm.
need to really have like policies
Yeah.
and procedures in place
Mhm.
about Park and Rec in general,
Mhm.
what we do. Without having any of this, but you know,
Yeah.
hire a director and be like, hey, we don't know what our policies and procedures are right now, but
Yeah.
we think we have them in our head, so, hey, yeah.
So one of the things that I wondered, and truthfully, this would be in relation to pretty much every item on our agenda tonight, was the possibility of either like kind of divvying ourselves up and kind of either working in work sessions like during these meetings
Mhm.
or doing some research prior to the meetings and then bringing things to this and then kind of divvying up.
Next, please.
Yeah, because right, like, there are a lot of things that have to happen.
Yeah.
In order to have a program that's gonna be kind of high capacity and functioning. So like having like a subcommittee group that was just gonna look at policies and procedures.
I think we lost the meeting room.
Dave, can you hear us?
You're
You're
muted.
muted.
Might wanna make him a
Yes, I can hear you.
co-host, so if that were to
Yeah.
happen again,
Thank you. Sorry, we lost service as the other town meeting was trying to get logged in. Apparently
P
there's
and Z using a
competing
different license, but
Zoom accounts, so our apologies.
yeah, and then-
Dave, you're muted though.
There we go. I think we're better.
Okay,
Okay.
cool. Sorry that we lost you guys.
Yeah,
So I lost you guys, but I know you were talking about divvying up policies. Is that that's where I last heard off, which sounds like that could be a good idea.
Yeah, so that was some of our discussion was a little bit just, right, like, for the policies and procedures, for the job description, like, those are two fairly big items. And just, I'm wondering if it maybe isn't more efficient for us to kind of work in two groups so that, you know, we can kind of spend some time researching things that are out there, looking at other job descriptions, looking at other postings. I know in the last meeting, we reviewed some of the ones that like were kind of currently posted and some of the salaries and things related to those, but maybe kind of splitting into two groups, focusing on those two things, just so that we can kind of move a little bit more efficiently through them. So two thoughts, like, right, we could either do some of the research outside of these meetings and then bring that back in these meetings and then look at it all together. And I think your point is a good one about like what's already out there and like what are some of the like laws governing this, and even if they don't necessarily govern it, because there is that weird loophole. You know, what would be best practice that we want to achieve, even if it's not law.
and I will follow up with Ben Marino with regard to any policies and procedures that he may,
yeah,
you know.
cause that, I mean, that would be helpful,
Yeah.
because that, you know, that's the legality part
Mhm.
of what we need to have,
Right,
you
right.
know?
Well, should it necessarily be us creating these policies and procedures or whoever becomes director? And then we kind of approve those, so like. If they get hired and then they wanna come change some things that we've just done. I don't know, I don't know if that's the number one agenda is getting somebody hired, so that way we don't have to do all these things.
Or at least they could do that work with us.
Right.
But does it delay your process in any of your potential programs, like if you want to run hoops or anything? Because you don't know how long it's gonna take.
We've never had anything like this, but,
Yeah.
I don't think based on what I'm seeing here, just a blanket sort of thing. Like, you feel free to drop off as long as you're picked up by whatever time, it's really, the hoops would be fairly easy.
Yes, it's like, yeah.
I honestly think that starting from here, I mean, this is specific to before and after care. But starting with something like this is the only way to start if there isn't something beforehand. And then over time, you figure out whether there are other regulations that have to be added to this, or having a director who's trying to restart some programs and do other things would figure out what else needs to be articulated just
Mhm.
programmatically. So I feel like this one agenda item is like a multi-year
Yeah.
process.
Mhm.
And I agree with you. I mean, I feel both ways about it, but I agree that if we could get a director and we work very closely with that
Mhm.
director, but as they try to start.
But so here's my question. What does the Parks and Rec director do? What are they in charge of? Like, do we even know fully like what they're in charge of and what their role is? And then we're gonna say, hey, you're gonna come into this role. We have no policies or procedures in place. You're gonna come and create all of them. That's a lot, like, so like, I think like down to like, I could be honest, I don't know every little thing that the director of Parks and Rec does here, right? Like what they're, and I don't know if everybody,
You're not alone in that.
Yeah.
what?
You're not alone in that.
No, that's what I'm saying. So like, how are we gonna like post for a director position
Yeah.
if we're all sitting there saying like, what do we have or what do we know, right?
So if
Like, we want Bethany Hoops to come back. We're gonna talk about that at some point. So we can look at like the now for that, right? But then it's like, I think like you know, we need to figure out what Parks and Rec entails to put things together. for
I think the brunt of that job was before and after care, because besides that, there aren't that many programs. Unless they add more.
Was it just programs, or are they in charge of like the rentals
Well,
of that, like,
yeah.
you know, like, is there things we don't know, are we just assuming because we're parents?
In the finance department
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
Really down.
is that where they'll,
finance.
where they'll stay?
That could be a conversation. It depends on, you know, you have to,
No,
you potentially have to either, when you have a director, are you also going to hire potentially some kind of office administrator who would oversee that particular piece of the reservations? oversee my record registrations, oversee invoices that come in
You
and
mean
how
the
they're
position
processed.
to the director?
Wait, so hold on, so
Right, I mean,
we-
you have to have someone who's
they
gonna,
never had an administrative assistant there, so that's, okay, these are good things.
Yeah, what,
Yeah.
Yeah.
if they're not doing that stuff, then what are they doing on a day-to-day basis, essentially?
well.
So I just want to step in with a thought too, if I can, after you, Paul.
That's fine.
One of the things I think we need to kind of work together on here is, I think it's really important that this body creates the policies and with the assistance of the attorney. I don't think the park and rec directors should be doing that. Policies are generally much more litigious. As a result, I feel like that should be something that either, because I feel like that's how we kind of got into this mess to some degree, right? And nobody knew what the policies were. So I feel like at least if the commission is maybe not directly doing it, but doing it with the town attorney, I think that's step one. The other step to really kind of consider is, like you've said, a few people have said, and I don't know what the park and rec director really has done. One of the thoughts we might want to think of is if the policies are kind of created by this board, or this commission, in addition within the attorney, the town attorney, we may want to just consider if all the park and rec director is really doing is authorizing the programs, kind of allowing them to go. Some of these other positions for towns our size were part-time. One of the benefits I see, if we kind of think about that as an option, is solely the standpoint, we may get some much better candidates. If you really look at the pay of what these are going to realistically pay for a town our size, it's not really too lucrative. It's not too enticing for a lot of people. However, as a part-time job, 20, 25 hours a week, we might get some more people interested who are coming from school systems, have a lot more knowledge, and can also, after we have some policy, say, hey, we need a few more things in place from their experiences. It's something to think about, because there's a lot of jobs where by itself, if we really wanted to get this to the point where somebody's creating all the policies for us, all of, the programs for us, you're going to have to really consider a much higher level of pay than what other towns our size are paying. And I just don't know if that's something we want to do. So it's things to think about, but I definitely think the policies at the minimum should be really directed by, legal primarily.
There'd probably be a lot of work up front, but I mean, it's not like they're gonna be doing this year to year. Once the policies are in place, unless there's an addendum, but I mean.
Or any laws change that matter, you would have to
Yeah.
add something to a particular.
Yeah, so there might be work up front, but I don't see this being a heavy duty job in the long run.
But there are certain statutes, I think Dave is kind of thinking about too, that you need an attorney, so like we have,
Attorney, for
so
sure,
like,
yeah.
say if it's new Title IX regulations, right, 'cause I'm a
Yeah.
coordinator, right, like, they came into place, we can't put them in, like, they were given to us, like, by the attorney, they gotta go in front of like the Board of Ed and get approved to go into place, like, that stuff, we shouldn't be, we shouldn't be writing those kind of things, and I don't think, and I agree, like, we need to have some of this in place before we have a director, so if something, oh, I couldn't get to that, and then what happens? Something happens, and then it's, oh, we didn't have this in place, I agree, like, I kind of agree that that's what got us here, so how do we have, like, both, like, there may be things that they update and change, like, hey, you guys don't have this, you need to add this.
Right, and the director's
Yeah.
job may be
Yeah.
like in concert with legal, kind of making
Right,
sure that we're staying up to date with
Right.
any statutory
Right.
changes that come out, any
Right.
legislative changes. I also wonder, to your point before, like, do we look at kind of like what the licensing requirements are for like a childcare center?
Mm.
And like strive to kind of meet those
Mhm.
standards?
well, listen, even when you do, like, when you do sports, I don't know if I find it anymore, but like, I have to be safe sport certified
Right.
to go into a locker room with my son for hockey. I cannot go in there as even as a volunteer
Right.
without going through through training. I think that that's something to kind of be looked at too.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah,
So I had to do a lot
We
of
did it,
work for,
yeah,
to coach baseball,
Yeah,
coach football,
yeah.
basketball, it was nothing.
this was like
but-
volunteering to just be around the kids, right? Like, I had to,
So just on that was basically,
All
and again, that's what we're here for, but that minor protection program, which I kind of modeled off of UConn, that basically is that. So, there's some stuff, we'll definitely want to add, for example, I think everybody needs to be CPR certified if they're not already, that's an automatic AED. But we want to kind of model it off of something else that's similar, Safe Sport is a good example of it. But a lot of other things have that already, a lot of programs refer to as minor protection. So that's something where, hey, if legal reviews it, it's like, yeah, I think this hits all the pieces. I don't think we always have to reinvent the wheel on everything. You know what I mean? So that's already, some people have already been trained in that. We had the DCF training. We've already hit a lot of, if we just do those things, we've already moved forward to some degree. You know what I mean? I don't think we need to, okay, hey,
I'm talking about
let's,
Parents are helping coach. Or
Right,
like,
we'll have to have like
yeah.
a vetting process, and a
Yeah.
background check process for any.
Yeah.
like, coaches, like any programs that we
Yeah.
kind of bring in and offer. And some of those
Yeah.
programs, I would imagine, will already have like a background check process that they make all of their staff go through, but then it would be like kind of checking their certificates and things like that to make
Yeah.
sure that anybody
Yeah.
that we're bringing in
yeah.
has gone through those hoops.
Mhm. Yeah, whether it's like Dave put together something that doesn't have to be safe sport, but I know you get certified, like you get that certification, it goes in the file, that they have it and they've been through it, so, whatever it might be.
And I would think
It's nice because it's online for parents,
Yeah.
anything like that, however we do it.
So
just
I think, I wonder if there are, if we could identify certain policies that we would want as the base skeleton
Right.
policies
Right.
for Parks and Rec. And then the rest get built up, the specific programmatic ones get
Yeah.
built up
Yeah.
over time.
Yeah,
So is our next step for this policies and procedures to like check with Vin about what he has access to? Jimmy, I think you said before too, like that my Park and Rec or whatever. Wasn't it like the
Oh, no,
opposite?
the.
The software, or you're talking,
Professional organization, right?
yeah, yeah.
CRPA.
yeah,
it's reverse, Connecticut, recreations and park, yeah,
And we are not currently members of
we are
that?
not currently members of it.
Connecticut Recreation.
Yeah.
They just do that to mess with it.
Yeah.
Well, they wanted to be consistent with the national organization,
Got it.
so,
Well, let's not change ours, because that will confuse everybody.
Right.
myself included.
yeah.
But like, do we look at, like, get the information about what it costs to join that
Mhm.
organization and potentially consider joining that organization, so we have access to all of their resources?
Yeah.
Right.
And maybe there's somebody there too to help guide us through this process, be like, hey, can you even come to one of these meetings or like join us virtually to like say, hey, listen, this is what we're trying to do, we're, like, where are we? Where do you suggest we start?
There's certifications on there too, it's like,
Yeah,
I think it's like $375. It's a pretty extensive test. But then once you're certified, it's not
Yeah.
better.
Right, okay. So. Not making a motion yet, because I don't know all of the things, but like, do we want to consider making a motion to, and I don't even know, Paula, do we have to make a motion for something like this, like. Somebody to contact Vin to see what he can bring us before our next meeting from like a legal.
I've already
perspective?
reached out to him earlier today.
Okay.
So, and I know he's in the other meeting in the other room, so I can try to touch base with him again, but,
Okay.
if I can't catch him tonight, I will certainly catch him again tomorrow.
Okay.
Um,
So like looking to see what policies and procedures he has access to. Looking into the logistics of joining the Connecticut Rec and Park, and we could bring that information back for our next meeting.
do you want to assign like one person to do that?
Does anybody want to reach out to Connecticut Rec and Park and like get some information about what it costs to join, what you get when you join?
Yeah, one of my students, her mom was the parks director in Monroe, and she was talking all about it. So she said call her anytime. Yeah.
Okay, that would be great.
And I'll see if they have anything in place already for like their basketball program, whatever else they have that we might
Okay,
also use.
okay. Dave, were you gonna say something?
yeah, I'm just. Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry, so I'm just looking it up now. Professional individual membership in Connecticut Park, Association and Recreation, Recreation and Parks. It looks like it's just $120 for the group, for a private or a public group. So a group membership is only $120. So I just wanted to Google that now, and it doesn't So that doesn't seem, I think that's an annual membership, so it doesn't seem like it's too unrealistic.
No, not at all.
Right.
Okay. Paula, I'm assuming that we have the, like, based on our financials from last time, that we have the money that we could.
There should be something I
that.
can find out. I know that the Board of Finance, I will, just an FYI, just an FYI, the Board of Finance will be discussing the Park and Rec budget next week at their finance meeting, so I don't know if someone wants to attend that just to be on top of what their conversation is.
Do you know off the top of your head what night that is?
It's Tuesday night, 6:30. It's a virtual meeting, so even if you want to just be on to listen,
I can go Tuesday. I have a work
6:30.
meeting Monday, so I just did that.
Yeah.
Um. 6:30.
In the same room here, the conference room.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so do we need a motion to join the Connecticut?
If you want to have it on record that you've all agreed
Yeah.
to do that, it's probably the best thing to do.
Okay.
So
Someone
I'll make a motion that we join Connecticut Recreation and Parks Association.
And then you need a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
We're still gonna try to find out like what we would get in exchange for that, right?
Yeah.
We're still able to.
It
Yeah.
says here that they function and perceive as a solutions-based organization that helps towns and citizens address issues of direct concern to them.
Oh, perfect. Is
And there's a-
that for
you
the
know,
whole department?
Too.
Yeah,
That membership would be for the whole department?
is it for the whole department, Dave? Does it say it on there?
It just says public, private, and voluntary groups. So I think
Depending on what the membership form looks
it's
like.
for
that.
the, it just says for the. It's for the, it just says for the entire group. So I think that would cover it for the town. It doesn't define what a group is, but considering it's a town, I think that would count as a group.
I think isn't there something coming up too? Like if it's a conference or something in Mohegan or Foxwood or something like that?
So let's see, conferences, 64th, yeah, November 25th and 26th, Mohegan.
Yeah, yeah.
Volunteer to go.
It's right before the
Go
Thanksgiving.
do outreach and find a Parks and Rec director, there you go. You have to stay there.
The week of Thanksgiving. Something to be thankful for.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see if it says anything about. Commercial and entertainer, so it says there's two different, are you seeing this, Dave, that there's two different categories, commercial and entertainer?
I did see that. So are you talking about for the committee or the conference, or are you talking about back to the just
Back
joining?
to the, back to the membership.
Let's see. I did see that. I did, but then under individual membership, it just says professional individual membership. Then there was community leader board membership. So the board membership looks like it's only 65 for the board. I think the professional membership it sounds like that'd be more for the entire group. For like a director kind of position, I would assume. But that is a little bit vague, but I mean, either way, it doesn't. Okay, hey, man, if you go down group membership, so I was wrong, includes director of Parks and Recs, Recreation with professional individual membership and 9 citizen board members. So it's $430 for that. And that's an agency membership.
Okay.
So I think with that, if we we just made it vague, the motion just to join, but I still think $430 is pretty reasonable. And that gives us 9 members plus a director. And that's an agency membership under group membership.
So when I looked up the advantages of membership, the second sentence, is that it provides you with the information and support you need to maintain a cost-efficient and legally compliant department.
Exactly, yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
so I think for the $430, it's probably worth the money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And it says that it's over 80% of Connecticut's municipal park and rec departments are.
So you definitely will have a lot of
this.
resources
Mhm.
available on that
Right.
site.
Right,
136 towns,
and then you're now reinventing the wheel.
right,
And we can, once we talk to finance, we can certainly see
right.
about joining
Okay.
sooner than later,
Yeah.
obviously.
They also offer education opportunities for every level of the department, from
Mhm.
directors to full-time, part-time, and seasonal staff.
Mhm.
So they'll track CEUs.
Mhm.
So how
And then
does it work? I
we
know
can
the,
Post the job on it.
you said the budget's gonna be discussed
Is it-
next
is there a
week.
job?
But would it work that we would make a motion to recommend to finance that we spend that money, or once it's in the budget?
You could put a request.
Okay.
You know what, I will follow up with Leslie tomorrow. With regard to how a membership would work, and if there's something already in the budget, like a line item that already identifies any kind of memberships.
Yeah, I was just looking for that and
Yeah.
I don't see one, but there's definitely. Obviously, this year hasn't gone as planned, so I'm, maybe
Right.
There is a job
put it
posting.
into office expense or even.
Programs
Yeah,
or
there's
something.
a job posting in there, which I thought was good.
I'll follow up with Leslie tomorrow, on that, and what was the amount again, for what?
Mm-hmm.
430,
Yeah, $430.
Okay,
yeah.
and that was for nine people, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
it's
have
an
a,
agency, and it says 9 citizen board members. Includes a park. Includes director of Parks and Recreation with 1 professional individual membership and 9 citizen board members. So,
I'm assuming that's a yearly fee. Is that right?
I would imagine that it's annual, yeah.
Mm.
yeah, it doesn't say, but I'm assuming it's annual.
Or if they'll prorate it being a slate year.
Unless it's done from when
Whenever
you
you start.
start, I don't know,
Yeah,
I don't
it
know,
just run for like a year from.
that's a
when you
question,
join.
that might, your friend might know that.
Mm.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, so. We have the motion
To join,
to join,
and you had a second.
we had a second, any other discussion aside from the discussion that we just held?
Mhm.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Abstentions? Motion passes. So we're taking that to the Board of
I will
Finance.
follow up with Leslie tomorrow to, see what the process would be in order to get that membership, going.
It does say in the membership application that it's active for 1 year. So on the first of the month from your original application date. So no matter what, it's,
Mhm.
yeah,
On the first.
Mhm.
right. Okay,
And that would just become a line item on our budget going forward.
I would think that that. would be
Right,
something that
when,
we
when you
want
start the
to-
budget process, which actually will start in a couple of months, that'll be one of the recommendations you bring forward is to have that line item added, for membership.
Okay.
And this way it's not plugged into any other line, so it's always identified as a membership.
Right, okay. Okay, so would it make sense then? To like see what Vin gets us as far as policies and procedures? Assuming that our membership here goes through, see what we can get through this organization.
Mhm.
And then like, once those pieces are in place, we can revisit this agenda item in another
Mhm.
meeting.
The policy and procedures.
There are some items that you will find that will be repetitive on, they're almost holding places, because even if you're not necessarily have them to talk about, like on my agenda, I always have tax refunds, cemetery deeds. It's a reminder to me that to check if those
Mhm.
Things
are
are.
happening that month.
Okay.
So certain things may stay on as holding places,
Mhm.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Okay, so then we can move on to number 4 on our agenda, which is discussion and possible action of the director of job descriptions and posting. I believe we had from our last meeting.
I had given you a bunch of samples, but I think you also had the current one, which was 2005. I mean, it was current as a,
It's current as we had.
yeah,
Yeah, you had given us a packet and some,
samples, and I actually had gotten some of those right off of that Connecticut Recreation and Park site. And then I went on Indeed for some of the other ones to,
Is it possible before we go into this to figure out what their role is gonna be, like what their job, like what they either have done, what's been dispersed, like what is the director in Bethany supposed to do? Because if we don't know that, and then how do we put a posting together? Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
I
could
agree.
probably look at
Yeah.
the current, well, I say the
Yeah.
current one, you know what I mean? And sort of look at what they had down as, obviously you're involved with the budget for your department,
Mhm.
overseeing purchases of supplies and, you know, processing invoices. Um, uh, Overseeing programs. I know Janice did work with like our human services director sometimes on different activities, trying to, you know,
So the before and after care was relatively new program, right?
well, I don't know when it actually started. It's been
4 or 5 years now. Was it always on?
no,
Yeah, it's longer than that.
longer than that.
Was it before care too? I thought.
The school may have done it. I just know.
Was that
it
under Parks and Rec?
was
So
already
like,
in place when I
if
started
the-
5 years ago, so.
Okay.
I started working for the after-school program my freshman year of college, and then, so I was 19, so that was 9 years ago.
But was there before care as well at that point?
There was, yeah, at that point, yeah, I was coming in the mornings with the kids, yeah.
Okay. So that's, yeah, they expected to be there for the before care and the after care, like, how
Well,
long,
that-
what is their, you know, the director, are they supposed to be there?
Said
for all
all
those?
I mean, I don't think.
I don't think Janice was always here
She
for
was,
for the hour in the morning.
Two positions of her and Anthony, and he was technically like the recreation coordinator, so I think he was always the one that was required to be there, but he wasn't there in the mornings, so I think it depended on. I'm not quite sure.
Janice
There's
was
no-
sometimes here early in the morning.
Yeah.
And the last few years that I've been here.
Yeah, so who was in charge in the morning? That's another, that's
That's
something,
what- when I
yeah,
kind of-
yeah.
I was like, I have to be there.
yeah, no, there should be like a supervisor, like, or somebody identified as a super, that's just something to talk about
I
in the
mean,
future.
that's something like, will the school
Right.
maintain that piece?
Right.
I mean, these are conversations to be
Yeah,
had.
yeah,
Will the school, you know, have the staff to maintain that hour in the morning
Right,
that they
and then
do? And then Park and Rec is just an after-school
Yeah.
program. So these are
I don't know,
conversations.
they're not
to
getting
be-
a lot of kids to that, I don't know if any, the kids going to the before at the school, I think there's like a dozen kids.
Okay,
So I don't know.
so
what
it's
needs to
it's
go.
manageable, it's not
There's a-
overwhelming.
Yeah, and they overstaff, I mean,
yeah.
they had.
Did they open it up to anyone else in the school, or was it
I
just
don't
the
think-
Park
yeah,
and
I
Rec,
think it was just a soft opening
kids?
for anyone
Yeah.
who's
Just
in
the
Park
soft
and Rec
opening for the
or
Park and Rec kids,
So
okay.
it's about half, because I think we got up to 24 or 25.
So it's about half.
For the mornings,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Okay,
And I was gonna say, I feel like there were probably increased numbers last year when it was super flexible, right? You could just kind of use, because like, we don't use it often, but there were
Mhm.
like a handful of days where I would bring them.
Yep.
I think we were trying to get more of a
You know.
handle,
And that's
I think
on
more
that,
people would have utilized it.
because if you have people just popping in and saying, hey, I need to drop off my
Right, you don't know.
Yeah.
child,
Yeah.
then you have, right, exactly, the concern is having
Yeah.
enough staff to have that proper ratio, because you just can't have drop-ins and all of a sudden you're
Right,
over, you know,
right,
Well, that's
right,
what
you don't
I'm
want to
saying.
staff sitting there that you're paying,
Yeah.
you know, kids.
right,
That's what
right.
like, job, as far as the job description, what's expected of them, like, if there is gonna be a before and after care, like,
Mhm.
what does the hours look like? So
Right.
we
Well,
kinda-
that's the thing, because you also have, don't forget that the regular town hall staff has succinct hours.
Right.
If you're running a before-school program and an after-school program, now you're extending the day at both ends. So, that's why it doesn't make sense potentially that the school keeps
Mm.
that, so then the Park and Rec program is running from
Yeah.
a later hour to, you know, so, yeah.
So here's a thought on that, though, the director. And again, I don't know if she ever was, I don't think it was ever the director actually at the before and after school program. Am I correct on that? Or was like, again, we're kind of figuring out what the role she
I
had
think she would
was.
step in sometimes if any counselors were sick or something, you know, she would step in, but she wasn't there on a regular
Right.
basis.
I mean, like a retail facility, a coffee shop that has 10 hours a day, the manager doesn't have to be there all the time, but they have to designate who's in charge. for
Right,
that
like a
now.
manager kind of
Yeah.
person would be,
Well, but
yeah.
I would say that closing's gotta be easier. How many kids are still there at from 5 to 6 o'clock, you know?
5 to 6, very light.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they don't have to be there that late, I think.
Is there still an assistant position?
That got eliminated
That was,
yesterday.
the position was eliminated last night,
Yeah.
but
So
there's other technical.
would we
pieces
need to
that.
merge
Mm.
those, job descriptions together?
Good point.
Not necessarily, it depends on what you plan to do with the program. That position's been eliminated right now, so you can't fill an assistant director position
For your
for the rest of this.
description.
Yeah,
But he just,
Yeah.
yeah, so,
like any
so
of the
here's,
duties
so
that,
here's a question, maybe we should go through these functions to see, because like I do have, like, I have questions going through this, right? It says oversees the operation of indoor and outdoor recreation programs and facilities, including scheduling of events, facilities and activities. Recommendations for repairs and maintenance of fields and lodge, so like what field, like how many fields are we talking about? What lodge are we talking about? Scheduling, monitors, referees, coordinating with sports leagues, accepting registrations, training, like, I think that's where it's like, okay, this is like, how much are we talking about? Has that been moved since what, this was 2003, right? Like, since then, like, is that still something that they're supposed to be doing? Who, you know,
Well, so
Like, I
honestly,
think-
and along that line, not to interrupt you, but yeah, I think even more important might be the fact that I didn't realize if there's no assistant director now,
yeah,
now that's actually changes the role very dramatically, because now if it's gonna be one person, you know what I mean? Now they're
Yeah.
gonna oversee two jobs, so now I think that drastically changes, and that's, I think, an important piece to know, even more than, hey, is it this field or that field? Now you're kind of doing two jobs, because in the past, the assistant director probably did a lot of stuff that maybe a supervisor is doing. So I think the question becomes, are we gonna start channeling some of those functions onto the director at this point? 'Cause again,
like, I mean, like, yeah, and I have questions too, I mean, I know we're not there, but like, I think if we're gonna do Bethany Hoops, we have to look at giving someone a stipend who's running it. You know, like, I think it might be, we might, yeah, like, we might be looking to stipend these positions, you know, because it, like, especially, definitely now, and there's no director, right? Like, we might have to look at how we can do that, but, you know, and I
Almost
think
like
we're
a
also looking at,
contracted service.
you're also having a director come in that has no administrative assistant either, no assistant director. It is, like, I mean, it could potentially be a lot of work to organize, like, everything too, so I think there are a lot of areas, which is why I'm trying to see, like, what are the director's responsibility, like, what is, or how about even broader, what's Parks and Rec's responsibility?
Mhm.
Because I still don't know that. And I don't even think we can go, like, I think we're like spinning, like, it's like a hamster wheel in a sense, like, we're going around and around, because like, we don't know what we don't know, right? Like, so,
Well, yeah, and in a town like this, it's small, if you're at
Yeah.
Wallingford, they've
yeah,
gotta monitor pools
Right,
and
right,
rec facilities,
right.
that there's really not that
right,
much that they
yeah,
need to do.
yeah,
Yeah, to your point, I think I mentioned about the assistant director.
Yeah.
And they said most don't have it, but they do have these program coordinators.
yeah,
So I was gonna say, so I was just looking at one from Wallingford, that's called the Recreation Program
Yeah.
Specialist. And it says that it's an entry-level admin position.
mhm,
So like, it sounds like that position is more like, I'm gonna book, you know,
Yeah.
the baking class.
Yeah.
And put it in my rec and push
Right.
it out and
Right.
like manage the registration
Right.
for those pieces. Am I correct in thinking, so when we get to that point where we're ready to make a recommendation for a job posting, we bring it to the Board of Select people.
Mhm.
If we wanted to also consider adding an admin position, whatever we decided to call it,
Mhm.
we would also make that recommendation to the Board of Select people.
What we'd have to do too is also, we would probably have a conversation with Leslie to see how it would fall into the budget.
Right.
Cause we're, well, maybe a quarter of the way through the year
mm,
right now, so, being,
Pick a person,
like,
like one.
Like
So
a
in that case, so
director
what
and
is,
an
what is the
admin.
director doing on a day-to-day basis?
Hmm.
If they can't do those seemingly simple things, like, there might be a couple, like,
Yeah,
when programs are registering, that's gonna
Yeah.
be busy.
yeah,
But what about the rest of the year? I can't imagine, they're gonna need a
Yeah.
whole nother person full-time or.
Maybe
Yeah.
part-time.
but that's why I think the coordinator position is nice, it's like a stipend, like, it's like, okay, like, we need someone to run Bethany hoops. We need, like, this cooking class, the director should be able to do, but you're talking like, now you're talking so much, like, you're talking hours. Afterwards that, I think Nick's been great volunteering, I had no idea he was like volunteering for all of those hours,
Not
Nick,
all, some of them, but.
well,
But and then when you also think about,
like,
the camp, summer camp,
yeah,
do you hire just someone as a director for summer camp? Like it's a seasonal position just for that?
Which is
block
how
of
like a lot of
time.
the YMCA camps and stuff run. It's a
cause you're gonna need
seasonal-
somebody to like
Yeah,
be there as a
yeah.
backup, like you need double supervisor.
Yeah,
You
that's a
know?
long program.
Yeah.
You're having to run the entire program all, so you're doing everything else.
And it starts basically in March with,
Yeah.
with registrations. So
Yeah.
it's- Yeah.
So I guess, and I'm certainly not married to the idea, but I feel like one of the pitfalls for the prior program was that there was nobody kind of being the admin assistant or administering it generally, and maybe the director can do it and it just wasn't happening before. But like, I'm sure we have all heard, right? Like, it was hard to know who actually paid tuition and who didn't, and no one was really keeping track of that. And I think my rec probably streamlines that and makes it much easier to manage. But like, if the director is running the before and after school, we haven't even determined that yet. But like, if that's something that ultimately we decide that the director is going to be responsible for, hiring staff, training staff, being on site. Having somebody, even if it's part-time, who like answers the phone and fields questions and. Like, I think you said before, Craig, like, do we want to try to offer more programs? Like, we don't really offer a lot of programs in town. We don't offer really any adult programming in town, like we basically become
Yeah.
a child care.
Yeah.
Off, so like, if we were gonna try to like start offering like yoga and I don't know.
That's, I was gonna.
Yeah.
Create a Google form survey, I don't know the best way to get that out, but like,
Yeah.
is that something we should do, or is that something to let the director come in, maybe they have experience. With certain programs that they'd like to incorporate here, so I think kind of all these things we should put on hold until we do get a director.
I mean, Nick, how many, you kind of got put into it, right? Like, how many hours a day were you on your own? I mean, and I know you were trying to invent.
To a tornado.
Well, no, but in reality, though,
It's an
we're talking about a director, like,
I was
And we're
here
thinking-
36.
I mean, and that's summer camp time, like,
Yeah.
so there is something that we'll have to think about, like, as we get
That's-
closer to.
yeah, like-
Yeah, like in those busy times, like, do we have to, look at budgeting for somebody else? Because let's be honest too, you can't expect somebody to be there, 12 weeks or however many weeks of summer, I can't, and not have a day off or need time off or get sick or anything like that. And then you have no identified person to supervise as a backup too. So I do think I kind of.
That's a great
Yeah.
discussion. That's actually one of my biggest worries when I take over.
Yeah.
God forbid I have an emergency or I get sick, there will
Yeah.
be nobody else.
Yeah, so I think these are things definitely, like, I'm sure the
Yeah.
director would think that too, but,
Yeah, I mean, so summer's the busiest
Yeah.
season, and then
For sure.
getting registered for hoops, but other than that, like, the baking program is like 10 kids in it.
Mhm.
Most of the programs are capped at a certain number of participants,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
I mean, not from the beginning of school until now, or like mid-October, that's.
But I think that's trying to figure out, like, what does the parks, what else do they do? Yeah.
So I know you said like some things have been kind of pushed off to other places, so. Before that started, what was Park and Rec what should they have been responsible for? So like, should they have overseen, so they maintained the lodge rental?
They maintain the rentals for the lodge, the pavilion, town hall. And now we have the like center station. Is coming to the mix with rentals, because we redid that.
So town hall, central station, the pavilion, the
The lodge, yeah,
The airport.
the airport with the rings and other activities
Oh,
that
see,
go
there's
on up
kind
there.
of things we don't think,
What
yeah.
about the baseball fields?
They maintain them, but the BAA leases that property, so I don't know if who deals with the Woodbridge Bethany, not hoops, baseball. Yeah, that's what, I don't know if they,
It's right,
They are.
rec does maintain the field.
yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm not sure if there's rentals for the baseball fields.
So by maintaining the fields,
They cut it, they,
rec does, or like they have to arrange with public,
we have kids that, or somebody was.
We had, 3 kids
That
were-
for an hour and a half every other week.
Yeah.
We'd go over
And
like,
do
cut the
mowing,
grass
yeah.
and paint the line.
I was gonna say, yeah,
Smooth out the dirt.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, my brother did that.
Yeah, and then the
Yeah,
My brother did
just
it
gets
him
cut
every
as
year.
part of the
No,
yard anyway, no?
No,
no,
I
and I
think
only know that
BCS
because I was
through.
riding bikes with the kids a couple of weeks ago.
BCS takes care of their own
Somebody-
landscaping and stuff.
But
That's
somebody
not-
from Park and Rec was
Right,
there.
and they maintain those fields.
Yeah.
Oh, up in the back,
They do,
yeah,
No,
yeah.
the one right next to the playground. There was somebody who like opened up like the storage container there,
For the dirt and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like mowed it and then like smoothed out the dirt and stuff. So,
Yeah, we need to clear the.
all right, so Park and Rec is responsible for maintaining what, the fields behind
And like
Billy's?
ordering sand
and
for
the
the
one at
beach down
BCS.
at the lake.
Okay, so maintaining, so it's 4 ball fields, right? The 2 at BCS and the 2 behind Billy's?
Yeah, I don't know if they maintain.
I don't know that they
At the middle
maintain that.
school, I'm trying to think if they ever helped, well, that was the BAA that kind of helped over there, but I don't think
There's
that
that
happens
field that's
anymore.
up on that hill that I don't.
The back one, I don't even think they use it anymore.
The one
I don't
that's-
think they use that one.
Like right back.
The one. like,
I'm gonna
next to the
say we
playground
have to
at
figure out
BCS.
everything that gets done, it's really confusing.
No, it's- yeah.
There was like.
So if I can make a suggestion, let's just focus right now on the overall big picture of things that we need to have covered. So, I'm making some notes here. We know, camp is gonna be our biggest thing. If we go from biggest to smallest, I think it will just kind of give us an idea of format, how many people we need. So for camp, which let's call that our biggest program. I think we all agree. Am I right there? Camp is our biggest program for Park and Rec.
Mhm.
And Nick, you're there, so I mean, you could kind of jump in too. How many supervisors do we need to have camp run in a functional way where, some of the things that we want to add as policies would be there? So again, Nick, you're probably the best one to answer this. So, what do you think as far as supervisors to kind of oversee counselors to make the summer camp run for the time frame it runs?
Yeah, so I mean, we've got the 4 separate groups. So obviously a head counselor / supervisor per each room is definitely something that's required. It was tough the end of the summer because obviously when I got thrown into the role, I didn't have a lot of help. So I was kind of trying to supervise everything, but I'm one person. So thankfully we did have Jared Tucci who was helping me very much so in supervising, but in terms of we should probably have, head counselors delineated so that we know there's a certain person who's responsible for each room's group. And then, of course, the other counselors will with them helping with the volunteers. In terms of administrative supervisors, I mean, obviously you'll have the director. I definitely think there is a requirement for somebody who's not just in the room, but there's gonna have to be a couple, 1 or 2 floaters who are checking in on each group and making sure things are going the way they need to go, because as much as I love the counselors we have, it's a lot to ask them to maintain the function of the entire group while everything goes on, And then, of course, there's also the people who need to set up the daily events. So, that was kind of just something I'd always taken up on myself, so I was running back and forth, going all over the place, but it's hard, so we definitely need to have at least 2 heads, if not more, helping run the organized events that we create throughout the weeks.
And then if there's ever an emergency, God forbid, that,
You need
Yes.
like a couple of floaters, that can be
Right.
like subs and.
Yeah.
I'm talking like if the like if something happens, a kid
Like.
like needs to go to the hospital or something like that, right, and the parents,
Yeah,
know,
too.
like, and the supervisor has to leave with it, like that, like, who is
Right,
the back, yeah.
So next.
Yeah.
right, next. in
Okay, so
charge.
for 4 groups, we would say basically 8 counselors, 4 supervisors, correct? Does that sound like right numbers right now?
Well, I don't think you could say how many counselors, because
Or
that has
say
to
how
be
many
based
kids.
on the
How many
ratio of
kids, yeah.
campers.
Yeah. Is there a certain ratio you need?
Yeah, so we always, obviously, the statute, I believe, is 1 to 10, but we always try to do much better than that. So I tried to recommend it to at least like 1 to 6. So like if you have, technically that would mean if you have 12 kids, you have 2 counselors, but we always made sure, at least I did for this last period, that each room they could have up to 25, 30 kids depending on registration for the week, have like 5 to 6
Well, is that- I mean-
counselors with.
As they get older, you don't need that big of a ratio, right? So like kindergarten first.
Well, the older kids can get more out of control, that's the thing. So you are right, at the same time, sometimes they actually need a little more monitoring because they need to get put into their place where the appropriate behaviors are. But, yeah, we always make sure to have like 5 or 6 counselors, because the thing is, especially with the policy we're trying to put in, if a kid needs to go somewhere, you gotta have 2 counselors go with them. So it became tough at the end when all the kids were off to college, because we would say, okay, this person's scraped their knee, has to go to the nurse. Well, we need 2 staff members to go. We don't want them to be alone with the kid. So then the group would now be stuck with only 4 counselors, which was still plenty fine with the ratios, but we need to take into account, of course, situations like that where kids have to go to the bathroom or go to the nurse or things like that. So I think 1 to 6 is a good ratio. I didn't like 1 to 10, even though that's the Connecticut statute. I just feel like you have 2 counselors to 20 kids. That's, it's a little ridiculous.
Now, are there any people who float?
I think.
No, I was essentially,
You were-
I was the person going through.
So I agree, Jamie, I think brings up a good point, I think we're getting kind of like mired down in like the nitty gritty of like
Yes.
Yeah.
what we need to
Yeah.
staff for summer camp.
I think we have
Summer-
to go back to what,
Right, summer camp is
It's
a
Park and Rec
responsibility
responsible
of
for.
Park and Rec, and it is, Dave, to your point, like the
Yeah.
largest,
Yeah.
right? So we've got summer camp, we have before and after care, should that be something that we wanna take back on, whether it's just
Yeah.
aftercare or we try to do both, or we do neither.
yeah, taking care of potentially taking care of these, maintaining these
Right,
rentals.
the rentals, the ball field.
Yeah,
Then any after-school programming,
Yeah.
right, like specialty programming.
And this is falling still under item 4, right? You're still working under item.
yeah,
4.
yeah, because it's trying, yeah, trying to figure out what we need to do.
And then is there
Potentially
anything,
expanding.
The budget.
So wait, so here, so this,
Finance the budget, yeah.
and then, you know, interviewing, hiring, training, that's a huge, you know, that's a huge piece.
too, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like doing the
Just making sure
orientation, et
everybody's
cetera.
compliant with any training and it's all kept up to date
Yeah.
and,
anything else, Paula, that we're not thinking of that Park and Rec?
Right,
Like you also said that they maintain the beach at
right,
that.
that's, they
That also
they
means-
would order sand for the
Yeah.
beach and that's usually, in the spring, I believe.
Yeah, that also made me think of too, obviously lifeguards as well, too,
Yeah.
hiring them, when they're
Lifeguards.
their own separate entity.
And that's seasonal also, obviously, but
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
you know,
And so Park and Rec is responsible for hiring the lifeguards anytime,
Yeah.
so not just when the camp
and
is there.
training and supervising the lifeguards too, right?
So we don't hire them unless they have their lifeguard cert and everything
Yeah.
like that. Now, I think once they're
to ensure
employed,
proper
we
certifications.
can help them get the recertifications when they need them. But obviously, I wasn't aware of what happened this summer, but I know a lot of the lifeguards didn't have their certs at one point. That's why we were stuck with that one at the end of the summer, but obviously we were able to make do. But I know that's something, yeah, we definitely need to.
So
stay on.
basically lifeguards are Park and Rec employees like counselors, right?
Yes.
How many, people utilize like swimming there? I feel like it's closed a decent amount of time by QVHD and then, I don't know, people swimming there enough that we can't just put up a sign that says swim at your own risk?
Well, there were
Well,
some,
we
we
had
had a couple of times when we
Oh,
said
you're
the
talking during
lifeguard,
camps or,
I'm sorry, say again?
you mean during the camps?
Oh.
Is there in the camps, obviously there's somebody. there.
Oh, they have somebody
Oh,
there during camps, but then also weekends, right? In the summer, just weekends.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think they have, I mean, I think
It
it
was-
was Memorial Day to Labor Day, and
Every
that's the
day?
open season.
Yeah, it's
So,
open season, yeah.
yeah, I think the
So every
lifeguards
day.
are there
It seems
until.
From certain hours, it's not,
But
not
that's
a,
something that
you
we'd
know.
have to figure out when we have a Parks and Rec director and policies in place.
Right.
Next summer, we'd
That's something
figure out what.
right, yeah, and how much,
But that's ideal, we have this town
yeah,
resource and we.
right,
But then we have to make sure that there's proper notification and we try to do that as quickly as like QVHD, if they do a water test and they tell us, we, put up signs and we put it on Facebook and we, the website and that kind of thing, so.
maintain social media, should that be, this is from 2003, but maintaining maintaining like the social media.
Well, speaking of that, can we get a little section in the Bethany Bulletin, like a Parks and Rec section? I don't think there's a dedicated spot, is there?
Well, you could submit something, it's not that anybody has a dedicated spot, I mean, the groups that you see in there have. kind of had regular things they'd like to put in, but if you have something you want to start putting in, then, you know,
Yeah.
try to keep it to maybe like
There
a
you
quarter
go.
of a page or
Yeah,
half
yeah.
a page or
Definitely
something.
bulletin.
Upcoming events, whatever. it doesn't need to be-
No, I
Submit
think
things to the Bethany bulletin.
I think updating the website regularly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right part.
And
Yeah.
Jen Capasso is is kind of our web person, so if you have something on the Park and Rec page that you want to, matter of fact, I'll touch base with her about putting the new Park and Rec members up there, if she hasn't done it
I think she
already.
has
Did she put
already.
it up already?
Did she?
I don't know,
But
I
I
will
can-
double check.
I think, too, though, is not just to update the website as much as we can with, you know, details and programming, things like that. Make a Facebook page.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just something that people
Yeah.
can constantly have updates and stuff, because the worst thing is you don't want people out of the loop, you know? You
Yeah.
want everything on file where it needs to be and any updates, so I think that's definitely a good recommendation.
Right, to maintain and like kind of create an online presence, like
Yeah.
a social media presence, a newsletter, a website.
But even if you do your own Facebook page, we certainly can put something on the town Facebook page as well. Right, if there's a big event or something you want to advertise, we can put it in two places.
So.
So there's, so what do we have on there as like, and these are all
The overall scope, kind
the
of.
super,
Park and
yeah,
Rec that the director would ultimately kind of oversee.
Oversee.
So rentals at Town Hall Center Station, the pavilion, the lodge, the airport rings. Maintaining the 3 ball fields and the beach at Vets. Aftercare programming, for students, any adult programming.
Mhm.
The budget, interviewing and hiring staff, summer camp and all that would entail. Before and after care, lifeguards, and then maintaining social media, newsletter and website. Anything else? Yeah.
They do payroll as well, I assume, so like
Yes.
a
Yes.
personnel,
Yes.
personnel section of the job.
They would
description.
verify,
Can
they
talk
would
about
verify
personnel,
payroll to go to the
Orientation,
payroll,
training,
yeah.
and lifeguards and counselors. and
Yeah.
things like that.
Something about like applying for grants too, if we can get.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's everything as of right now that they will be responsible for overseeing.
Is there anything else that was like taken off of them and divvied out to other
Mm.
departments that we're not
At this
considering?
point right now, no, I think we were all just sort of helping. There was, other than the reservations, which went down to finance,
Yeah.
they're really, everybody else was sort of on board helping. So, it
Yeah,
was
so
kind of
like-
all hands on deck kind of thing.
My kind of thought is a lot of bigger schools, their athletic directors, they get to choose people that have stipends, like, so, you know, you're overseeing volleyball for the season, right? Yeah, so just something like that.
What about the driving piece? Like sometimes I would see Janice driving and picking up kids from like CCD or something, but is there a response?
There was one family that got picked up, but then,
Well, I'm just like, is there ever, like, is a responsibility ever to transport kids around of this direct, like, is it, does it need to be in there?
did she bring kids back and forth from the lake for any reason?
I mean, we did a few years back when we first got that ban because of weather, but we ended up just making it, if there was ever bad weather, we.
We went up to the lodge, yeah, yeah.
Yes, but that is something that they could have.
It wouldn't hurt to get the CDL, because I had to get it when Janice had her hip operation. I had to drive the van, another hat, it's okay. It worked,
Yeah.
but, yeah,
I
so
wonder if
we,
it makes sense for us to start with I keep using this word, skeleton,
Mhm.
based on all those things that
Right.
you've laid out there, and then additional.
Responsibilities
You know,
as assigned.
as assigned in every job description.
Yeah.
that's always at the
Um,
bottom.
But then
Yeah,
things
yeah,
like that, you know, it'd be great if we
Yeah.
find a
That
person
fall
rec
under the
director who
purview of
already
the
has a
Parks and Rec,
CDL, but if
right.
not, then,
Right.
you know, we kind of.
Right, but it's
This
good
is
to know
gonna
that they
be a
don't have,
person who's gonna develop programs as we
Right.
go along, and
Right.
we.
It's an
hopefully will
evolving
manage
thing,
that
it's
Right.
it's an
well.
evolving,
but it's at least good to know that they don't have. There wasn't something that
Requires. them to-
required them to
yeah.
drive someone back and forth, so it sounds like we at least know what Parks and Rec overall encompasses.
Right.
It's pretty expensive to get the CDL, so.
Well, then also like.
Not really.
No, that's a different,
Oh, I have a
there's,
CDL class.
there's two different CDLs, like there's two different
You
CDLs, like,
got the van one, is that?
yeah,
Yeah,
there's like a
yeah, I'm not gonna
carrying
be
one.
driving a plow
You're
truck,
not
not
driving.
to worry. I know, I only got,
No.
But then like.
I only got it for the
$2,000.
van.
Right,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'm
that's
saying
something.
though,
Yeah,
like, but then it's
someone
also like
has
the
to
cost of like
For
maintaining the
DOT.
van and like.
Mhm.
all of those
There is,
pieces, like
sure.
that's something that.
Well, so then there goes into like,
Something
there goes into the skeleton like piece of like maintaining different things, like, after we get out of that.
Overseeing maintenance of any equipment.
Yeah.
Any,
Mhm.
vehicles or equipment,
Right.
Oh, speaking of that, I was just thinking that the way you're talking about running around the set, and like, we don't have any sort of like gator or some sort
Are
of,
you trying to put that in the budget?
that'd be nice to have, driving all around like those
What?
big tractors.
Who wants a gator? Who wants,
Oh, no,
Giant
no.
gator or something.
No, no.
For a while.
Or John Deere one too.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Well, the equipment replacement line item is
Gator.
90.
Gator.
Yeah, retires.
Maybe the van got new tires, I don't know, there's only $100 left in there.
Wait, what was it? What is it?
I need a ruler to look when I look at
Wire
budget line
question.
items, but it looks like equipment replacement line item only has $100 left in it.
Until June 30th.
Yeah.
The van is staying parked.
Yeah.
Right now we have it, I think it's up at the hangar, I think it's parked in the hangar.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's, well, it leaves space open here for,
Yeah.
Right.
because if you see after
Right,
school,
yeah.
yeah, pick up, it's.
Well, if somebody goes over and like turns the key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now we're gonna tire shop off too. Okay, so we have an understanding of the scope, I think, overall, of all of the things that they could be responsible for.
Can we put something about like promoting? Other potential programs, so like, we don't run a baseball program, football program, make sure that
Mm.
kids know that those are options.
To
that
run
would-
clinics, you mean, to run any kind of sports clinics?
No, like,
Oh.
just so the kids
Communicating what's
in town
available.
know that here's Bethwood is available, Amity Pop Warner is available, Amity Lacrosse is available, like, these programs are
Okay.
out there, even though we're not offering them. We're still making sure that our kids are aware that they exist,
Mhm.
especially since most of them are in town.
Right.
So just, yeah, I mean, communication with,
So, I
with
think that's
local
a great
recreation
idea.
leagues.
Because we're a
Like
small
a-
town, so even if we want this person to build more programs in, there will only be so much we can do,
Yeah,
and so then
we can't have-
I'm sure the
I think,
resources around.
I think
That's a
we
good
could,
idea.
we should put something in there too about bringing in new, innovative and creative. Like programs, not, because I think we talk a lot about sports because that's what we had and like baking, but, and I know yoga was offered too, but like, are there things that are not? This, like, are there other things that could be brought in, like you said, like bringing in programs, there's,
Something like
you know,
conveying of
Yeah.
but like, are there other things that,
So what if we,
like physical?
we have all these
Like
examples of.
but like
job
also like,
descriptions.
yeah,
Zumba.
Yeah.
What if we sort of start from scratch with these,
we're
and
gonna
then
find
we
ways to put
share?
everybody in.
I don't know how much can be done
Maybe there's
between
no
meetings, but if we create something. And then everybody puts in,
Right, are we
Specifics.
permitted to work on a document, like a shared job description? Or does it have to be worked on in session?
It probably should be worked
Work
on
on
in
in
session,
session.
unless you have a subcommittee that works together to, people can funnel ideas to your subcommittee,
Okay,
and then, they kind of bring something
I
back.
can put in the minutes these. Big scope things that we
Okay.
believe to be the full scope,
Mhm.
and then everybody can come to whenever our next
Right.
meeting is, having. Put in as many
Right.
bullet points under each of those headings
Right,
and the other heading
right.
as.
Because there may be other ideas in those job descriptions I gave you that
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I didn't think of that, that would
Yeah.
be.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of just breeze through those other job descriptions and
Mhm.
see, because some of them I think are gonna be pretty. Have a lot of the same
Right.
things,
Right.
Yeah.
but they may give you an idea like, oh, didn't think of that,
right. So can we? And I don't know if I need a motion for this or not, but like, could we say that prior to the next meeting, which we'll talk about? We'll all review the scope of the park and rec department that we just talked about, that will be in the minutes.
Mhm.
And then we'll all review the sample park and rec director job descriptions. And more if we can find them. So that when we come to the next meeting, perhaps we can kind of all like have marked up our copies and said like, okay, then, and like next session maybe could be. Just really focusing on building that job description.
And if you want to, I know you'll incorporate it into the minutes, but if you want to do it as a separate sheet and then get it out to the members faster, so they
Okay.
have it, and then you can incorporate it
Okay.
into the,
Are they responsible for making sure that like the tennis courts, I don't know if there's a pickleball court there anymore, that the playground
Mhm.
is fine and safe and the
Yeah,
basketball hoops have nets? stuff.
The tennis courts and the basketball court there
And the
and the
playground.
playground.
So they
Yeah.
probably have to have it certified then annually, that it's safe.
Mhm. But those are things like so we should, so that's gotta
We
be in
just
there
had,
too.
Was it pre-COVID?
You know, this right there, they're checking on that
The
legally.
surface,
revamp,
we
yeah.
had the whole surface
Checking on-
redone.
That was.
Yeah, but
That
the
was
kids like to
ARPA
rip
money.
down
We
like the
had
nets
ARPA
and
money
stuff like
for
that, that
so-
maybe come from out of town.
Was it 20? I lost track of time.
And
Yeah.
that's would be the only, right, that's
That's the
it.
only one, right?
What about the playground at town hall?
That's schools.
I never really.
There's a
So
property
there's
line somewhere
overseeing
near
that,
the
like,
pavilion that,
yeah.
Everything at
that's
that park
the
then,
schools and.
like,
Yeah.
maintaining the
Back.
Are you
parking
responsible
lot.
for the,
Yeah.
are we responsible
Soccer
for
nets?
the pavilion?
How about the kayaks? Whose are those?
Don't
Yeah.
believe so that would be town hall.
Who's got the
I
kayak?
don't
Who's responsible for the kayaks that are at?
think. Are those ours?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think there are
Rowing. Are
people
those like
that,
the row-
because.
Okay.
Donated.
Sign on them.
Good.
For who they belong to.
Okay, good, as long as we don't have to, like, I was just trying to think.
No.
Yeah, like that entire.
Yeah.
I think that's a veterans group, am I mistaken on that? I thought there was like some veterans group that has that kayaks, I thought, when I walked past them, I'm pretty sure it said something about that.
Okay.
Perfect,
Right,
as
yeah,
long as
there's
it's not
a sign on them too.
another thing we have to worry about.
Okay, but the playground, the tennis courts, the basketball.
Okay, parking lot and the trails.
Trails are usually like the land trust.
Oh,
They
yeah.
maintain all of the
Yeah.
trails. Yeah.
So there's 120,000 on the line for director and assistant director. If we were to, let's just throw out a number, if we posted it for $70,000 or $75,000 for the director and then we earmark.
But some of
20,
that may have been
25.
spent already. I don't know if that's.
Right, even if we're not talking
Yeah,
I
about
think I
for, right, for this year.
Yeah,
Like,
like an annual
Right.
salary of that, and then we earmark 20 to 30,000 for these stipend positions.
Right.
And we leave ourselves another 20 grand, does that go back into our budget that we could? Like.
That's a lengthy
120, so then-
conversation.
Mm.
Jen may have to have that conversation with Leslie.
And one other thing with that, what are we talking about for benefits here? So that's, I think, another key component, if we're talking, it's gonna be 70,000, does the park and rec director get any kind of pension? What is it for the insurance? What's that?
If it's a full-time position, they could get whatever benefits are offered to the other full-time staff.
And is that included in the $75,000 line item?
No, I think there should be a separate line item for benefits. And it may not be
It may not be.
necessarily in there, it may be in the
Yeah.
general
Okay.
budget
Yeah.
part.
Budget.
Yeah.
Everybody's kind of incorporated
Yeah, 'cause we
into.
have salaries in our, like, in
Cause
our
that's gonna
budget.
be, just jumping ahead here, that's gonna be a real important piece, there's gonna be a big difference. Are we talking 75,000 versus, hey, you have insurance and your cost share is like $5? You know what I mean? That makes a big difference in how you're gonna structure your pay, because if you're getting some astronomically good insurance, a pension. Now, you're talking a difference versus, okay, hey, the person, I'm just gonna throw this out there. They don't have any kind of pension, it's a 401k and, our cost share is some ridiculously high number. Now you have to compensate it and probably pay more. So I think that's a piece that we kind of need to know what it was in the past and figure out if we're gonna try to deviate from that. 'Cause, you need that as I think to get the full picture of what your benefits package would be.
And I think speaking of that too, it becomes like, what are the expectation of hours for them? Because if you are talking 7:30 to 6:30, Monday through Friday. I mean, I don't know who's gonna want that for 75, that, like, what is what becomes the expectation of hours that they work?
And if there's any,
Yeah, right,
if there's
like,
any
it's
weekend
like-
programs.
Yeah,
they
like
would have
what
to be
is
Sort
the,
of on call in case something,
Right.
So
I
I
mean,
think that
there's-
would be like an overtime rate, but the big difference in the past, there was an assistant director. So now if that
it's salary, it
position's
wouldn't
been
be
cut,
overtime.
if your
You know,
salary,
if your yeah.
5 hours or 500 hours. if your
Yeah, if your
salary-
salary, it's no overtime.
Yeah,
Well, if you do, during the summer, during those crazy 8 weeks, whatever it is. They're expected to be there for those 10, 11 hours, and then this time of year, maybe they have every Friday off, they work. 9 to 3 or
Yeah.
something to kind of make up for that,
Yeah,
in the slower times when there's not a lot of programs being offered,
yeah,
so
but
it's
then
still.
when you have
does the same
aftercare,
thing.
yeah, you could flex it to 10 to 6, but you could flex it.
Yeah,
but if
so
you
if
had
they're not gonna be on-
2 people overseeing that
You
are
have to have
putting
somebody
that
else.
day, the director doesn't necessarily have to be there for the entire
Correct,
know,
right, or even every day,
11,
right, like if
mhm.
there's a director and then there's a supervisor of aftercare.
Yeah.
He isn't at
Yeah.
aftercare every day.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I'm
Right.
saying, like, we have to know that too, going into this. Of
I don't
what-
know that we do. I feel like we've gotta think about the wording and maybe Attorney Marino can help with that or something, but the wording for a salaried. Any good program isn't written so that the leader of that program has to be there 24/7. That
Right.
doesn't make sense. So
However,
have the
there's
support
people
staff.
that will, like, will think that that's the expectation for that, like, if there's no. If there's nothing in there that says there's anybody else that's gonna run anything else, your expectation is that you're gonna be there for that time.
Is that where those stipends would come in?
Yeah, but if that's not there, then,
Well, I
and
don't know
we're,
if that would be a stipend, I think that would be a salaried position, right? It'd be like hiring a counselor, but you'd be like the head counselor, the supervising counselor.
because that's gonna be a question again in every interview. What is the expectation for my hours worked? Every time I interview somebody with a salary, what are the hours I need to work? Doesn't
Almost
matter
like
if you
have
do
an
stuff on your
organizational
own
chart.
afterwards, but that is something that you are 100% gonna be asked in a salary position. Especially as you're
And-
getting higher and you're a director, there are expectations that you're working like nights and weekends, and so you're weighing all of that. And it's not $160,000 a year job.
Right, so I wonder though if in some of these descriptions, we'll find some of that.
Yeah,
Like, I'm looking at.
And who
the
does this
town
person
report
report
up.
to? You?
Mhm.
Okay.
Like, I don't know, I like the idea of that summer stipends,
Mm.
like maybe give the person who's like the assistant or whatever, $4,000 stipend or such,
Yeah.
$500 a week. On top of it, whatever, like,
yeah,
But like Brooklyn's, for example, just says like full-time 35 hours a week, year-round, not exempt,
yeah, that's what I'm saying, like,
right? Like some of them have that built in, so
yeah,
as we're looking through some of these, maybe we can look to see what they have in there,
yeah,
and that can
I-
help guide. And that
Another
makes-
thought here, and somebody said it, but the director isn't expected, and I know Janice was never at all these programs all the time. So I think if you look at it from the standpoint of the director, if you make it a standard 40-hour work week, because again, if you're getting paid even 70,000, you can't expect somebody to work all these extra hours. It's just not realistic. But as the director, your job is to ensure that the program is staffed. So, and that might be where you have to bend it and say, okay, hey, I don't have staffing today. I need to come in to run it. So I don't know if we have to get crazy saying, oh, how many hours do we really think the person's gonna work? As long as it's staffed and we're giving a method to staff it, whether we're gonna do a stipend position. I think that becomes an important kind of concept for us. But I mean, if we model it off of some of these other towns, we probably don't have to totally reinvent the wheel.
Well, basically, everybody here has like a 37.5 hour week.
yeah,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's what my position is too, and I feel
Yeah.
like it was well explained to me. When you're
Yeah.
exempt and salaried, your
Mhm.
responsibilities are not necessarily the hours. Your responsibilities are doing all the things in the job description and everything that comes up in terms of
Mhm.
in the purview of your,
Right,
your
right.
jurisdiction, what you're in charge of.
Right.
So we need to, I feel like that comes into play more when we're interviewing people to
I think
make
when
sure
you're
that
a
they
director's-
understand that
When
and
you're
they're
in a director's
responsible.
position.
Right, that's the
You kind of
expectation of a
anticipate
director.
that, it may say 37.5 hours.
Right.
Yeah,
This week.
37.5 hours is like, I don't.
Okay,
especially if you wanna run right, you check in all these
You put in
things.
the
How
time
did-
that needs to be
okay,
put in.
so here's a question, and it's a probably find it, like, how does this, like, say, we're saying 75,000, but how does that compare to other employees that are working for the town? In roles
Well,
that have these
They
expectations?
aren't close to that. If you split
Okay.
the 120 in half, they
Yeah.
probably.
right.
she
Yeah,
was
no,
a little
that's-
more
that's
than he
like-
was making,
yeah.
so.
No, because that's always good to know too, because you don't want somebody who's.
But the
getting-
benefits package is a good benefit
Yeah.
package, so if you add
Yeah.
on the benefits
Yeah,
package. It's, I mean, I had this conversation with some people who were arguing about an hourly rate, wasn't here, but. And they were saying to me, well, we should get more because so-and-so's getting more. I said, but do you know why so-and-so's getting more? I said, because they're taking 15% out of their pay
Mhm.
for insurance.
Yeah.
That's not happening on your paycheck. And so they were like, oh, so I mean, it sort of balances, depending on a benefits package.
Yeah, and the cost share is huge. I think that's one of the biggest things, because in contract negotiations, that's something we always discuss. Because if you're taking 15% versus 0, You know,
Mhm.
now you should be significantly cutting the amount. It shouldn't be 70,000 if you're getting
Mhm.
a really good plan for your family. And, you know, you have $5 cost shares and, you know, you pay a couple thousand a year for it, you know, that's gonna be a big difference. So that's, I think, an important piece to know before we post the salary, because
Yeah.
we're throwing 70 out there, but if the
Yeah.
insurance is saving you know, a tremendous amount and it's much better than what other towns are doing for the equivalent, you know, you're not gonna keep it at 70,000.
Right,
Yeah, just like if
Right.
it had, the other way, if it had a $6,000 deductible for a family that they've gotta put in,
Yeah.
that's 6,000
Right,
less than.
right. Now, if it's an HSA, you know,
Yeah,
high deductible
yeah.
health plan, that's a different
Yeah.
story too.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it has changed this year.
Yeah.
People's deductibles are higher this year,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So can we agree that for purposes of our next meeting,
Yeah.
which we'll set, that we'll all review the existing job
Mhm.
descriptions that we have?
Mhm.
And then if we find additional ones, we can email them to one another, right? No commentary.
Or
on
if you
them.
want to, or if you find them, you can send them to me and then I'll blast them out to
Okay,
everybody.
okay.
Yeah.
And then we'll come kind of with those like marked up, ready to talk about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah, so
on that, I
can be
also
kind of
think it's
nuts.
really important, we need to know what the benefits, I don't know, who do we get that from, Paula? Would that be, how would we
Email
get the?
Leslie.
Talk to Leslie.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll email
That'd be
Leslie, I
Leslie.
made my note, yeah, to look into any benefits package that's included,
Yeah, that's huge.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I'll also check with her about the logistics for joining, or you checking with her?
I made a note to check with her, but if you want to do it,
Want me
that's
to
fine.
do it?
Yeah, because if you're going to talk to her about the other
Right, I'll
things,
just
then
do
I'll
one
just,
email.
I'll put the
Okay.
agenda down, okay.
Okay, any other discussion about the job description and posting, or are we good to kind of scooch along?
Mhm.
So the next discussion and possible action was about Bethany Hoops.
Mhm.
I don't know if we were able to get any of the forms and things.
So so I reached out, we have to put something in to request Amity Middle School, Bethany. What I need to know, and obviously I was waiting for today, is I need to know whose name that goes under, whose email that goes under, and who becomes responsible for booking that, because you can do it all, you do it all through their facility, the facilities page on there. Like I have the dates and times, but I was like, oh, if I'm going in to do this, then it's going in under me, then who
But then
becomes,
you have to figure out who is going to oversee that.
yeah.
What did
That's-
that's put for the days and times, because.
I have it, I couldn't put anything in, I couldn't put it,
Looked at some logistics.
yeah, I looked and I talked about like when we could do it, but when I went to go fill it out, I was like, wait, I can't even do this because whose information are we
Right.
putting in? Which leads me to something I'd like to suggest, having a stipended position for somebody who has done this, like that can run Bethany Hoops for this year, oversee the process of it. We can take it to finance, however it is, but some kind of a stipend that we can all talk about to do this, because then that, then that person can maybe help to organize
And it
this.
runs
Is
how
that in
long?
addition to the hourly that they would get for the,
Are they getting hourly? Or who?
well, like the
Like
people who were there, Gabe, AJ, these kids who.
Do they get paid?
Some
Yeah.
were,
See, I don't know who gets paid and who
I
doesn't.
don't know what the kids would volunteer.
Well, because
Yeah.
high school, actually, high school, you need hours. You need hours.
Oh, they did?
No,
Yeah.
no, I'm saying,
Yeah.
They want,
You-
oh, they want the money.
Well, you get hours for volunteering too, so some kids have to volunteer for
But I
that.
think you're suggesting in
Yeah.
the absence of a director.
In the absence
can
of a
we just
director.
Have a lump sum of money from this budget that we allocate this year with no director.
Right.
We want to request and hire someone to run Bethany Hoops.
I don't know who knows a lot about Bethany Hoops.
You
so.
don't?
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody who might make our life a lot easier because they've done this, but I don't know.
I think it's a good suggestion.
So if we were gonna do that, we would need to make a motion amongst ourselves to vote on, right, an amount of money that we'd like to recommend to the Board of Finance.
Well, I think you could talk to Leslie, because I don't know what monies were, Nick, do you know if there was any monies that were specifically earmarked for Bethany Hoops? Or does it just fall under program?
Program expenses.
It's all under
I mean,
programs.
we also do charge for this, so. we could
Right.
talk to that.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's true too, so
Yeah.
yeah, that's true too.
I mean, we obviously have to cover the cost, which I don't know.
Is there a gym rental fee?
there,
We just have to pay the custodians.
yeah,
It's a minimum of 4 hours, right? Even if you use it for an hour and a half, we gotta pay 4 hours, I think, usually. I don't know what the rate is.
I don't know what they were charging them. Leslie might
They
have.
want to
she
open
might
it
know.
up for,
She probably could pull up bills from Amity for the.
so,
the,
as far as kind of prioritizing Bethany Hoops before we open registration, usually mid-October to late October, we just need to figure out how much we're gonna charge, what we need to cover, so we need to know what those fees are. Jerseys, how much jerseys are gonna be, which is gonna be much.
Right, were we able to get any of the old forms?
I
Oh, yeah.
didn't have access to it. I don't know if Jen, I could check with Jen on, the access to the
Oh, yeah, 'cause
computers
it's taking
downstairs.
on the website, right? Because the website's under construction, right?
What was it, like, $100 a kid or something, actually?
Did they ever email these forms out to people, or were they all physicals?
And we
Yeah,
have paper,
well, they
hard
had,
copies.
like, it was posted at one time on
The
the
website?
website, but I think it's not like. That's the program, this online payment for that now.
I'll check with Jen tomorrow. Maybe I'll email her tonight and,
One thing I wanted to do, this year a little different.
I have the form 2022 in my email. It's so good we can never delete anything.
58,000 emails.
That's why the Google alerts, my emails about to get shut off.
I would like to kind of gauge interest. I know with like the K through 1, girls and boys don't care, but the second and third grade, the girls were a little uncomfortable playing with the boys. I talked to the Orange Parks and Rec director, their girls program is kind of fledgling, they could use an influx of girls, so if we aren't able to have our own standalone girls program, I would like to kind of like make sure that those girls know that that program exists.
And that
For
was
second
what-
and third, and I don't know, how many girls played in the 4th, 5th, 6th, was it Sloan and
We had 5.
5?
Oh, no, I had 1, no, we only had 3. I had all 3 of them on my team. That was it. It was just our team, yeah.
So if they would prefer to play in all girls league,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Orange.
or if we can. Possibly take on our own
It's tough.
all
yeah.
girls,
We
so that's why I
definitely-
wanna send out
Yeah, we got
a survey, I don't know what's the best platform to do that on.
Yeah,
Is
it's one of those things where
Full,
we want these girls to be able to be comfortable and have their own separate program. At the same time, I don't want us losing all these girls to Orange, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like,
again, if we can't give them what they need, then,
I know, but that's why, like you said, if we gauge interest and it turns
Yeah,
out a
I
lot
mean-
more girls wanna sign up if they know they're not playing with boys.
Right.
Well, then we can have our own separate leagues. When I was a kid, we had enough girls that there were 4 separate 4th and 6th grade Bethany Hoops teams.
Does the JCC do, leagues?
I think too, yes.
That's
Yeah.
why, yeah.
Well, I know because the grandkids are doing
Yeah.
clinics or something down there right now.
We've got that team scrimmage JC. It's just
Okay.
to play some extra games.
and also with the girls, maybe reaching out to Woodbridge, so they don't have a program, Orange is kind of, big enough to have their
Or like
own,
open it up.
Right.
but open up for us and
Right.
Woodbridge.
Yeah, they do like it, cause you have
Yeah,
people
so if
are,
we can get that information, just so we know, and then we might need an extra night at the gym. If we're gonna have the girls have their own. have their own all they need and stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something I wanna get out there as a survey. I mean, through the schools is fine, but then we're not reaching the kids who go to parochial schools or anything like that. So I know the best way to reach all of our,
Well, if you create a Facebook page or you want us to put something up on the town Facebook page that can be shared out,
Mhm.
you know, we could put something on the website.
okay,
There's that
Yeah.
mom's page too,
Mhm.
yeah, oh yeah, Bethany Woodbridge, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that could be posted
Alright.
too, once the flyers made, but it was like, what was the it was 90 that, like,
So it was 80, well, this
80 and
was
90, yeah.
2022, so.
yeah, so we have to go up a little bit on that.
But it was $80 for K1. Their practice was an hour. It started December 5th. And then second and third and 4th through 6th was $90.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I
it
would
was
say,
Tuesday nights for 90 minutes, Saturday for 90 minutes.
I mean, I would say we raise the price on
I
that.
was gonna say, wait, $90 for the entire season?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't-
yeah,
Mhm.
And that covers.
I would
the
love,
t-shirt and
I would love to have 2 days of
Okay.
practice and no one pay that.
Love that.
Right, any other sport.
and the
Yeah.
gym time.
Mhm.
you know,
That's what I'm saying,
starting
that's
about,
like-
I'm like $7 grand.
Very well.
Yeah, very low. Very.
What some people do.
Yeah, especially because
Yeah.
4th through 6th was 2.5 hours of
But I
practice.
think we could go up.
No,
It's
so
not crazy,
fourth
but
and
even like
sixth
150,
is,
150.
they have
you know,
the
like-
initial
That's not
skill
wrong.
assessments, which is
Okay.
a longer practice, but then once you split them up into the 4 separate teams, they have their own practice slots. So
Okay.
2 teams practice from 6 to 7:30 on Wednesday, 2 teams practice 7:30 to 9, and then Saturday, there's the 2 slots as well, 9 to 10:30, 10:30 to 12.
Okay, that makes more sense, because yeah, this reads Wednesday practice 6 to 8:30, Saturday game 9 to 12:30.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
just,
Okay,
So
and then it must have gotten divvied up more
yeah,
after.
the other thing I talked about, Nick, it's kind of, cutting the costs is just having everything at the middle school. Instead of Bethany, instead of using BCS, just so we don't have to pay those. Cause the janitor got paid, we were only there for an hour and a half and they got paid the full 4 hours. Whereas we could just keep a janitor at, the middle school for 6 hours or whatever.
Which certainly would make logistics a little
Yeah.
easier.
And cause they were running all over the place from
Yeah.
the middle school to BCS last
Yeah.
year.
And then
So
I
just
was
kinda use
right,
that
we
flow.
have to rent in a 4-hour block, right? We could do like the K1 group, 30 minutes later, the 2-3 group. Same night, back to back,
It's just a little late.
3 different coaches.
Yeah, so that would be like 6 to 7 and then 7 to 8:30.
Or you could start at 5:30, like that's what time baseball starts.
Depends what the games and stuff are going on at the middle school.
Yeah, that's good.
Or practices at the middle school, like, what practices?
If there's basketball going on there, you're.
Yeah, you go,
coach all the way up until
Yeah.
middle school, and then people would start. at
yeah, cause
5.
remember, they have
Yeah,
middle school
Right,
sports.
Right.
So here's my question, can we make, like, figure out, maybe, are we still going for, are we making a motion for a stipend and an amount, like, are we? For this
So-
year for Bethany Hoops?
We do need somebody to handle the registrations, the shirt, jersey orders, just scheduling
Yes.
time, all that stuff, yeah.
I mean, I would make a motion for it, I don't know what amount we're gonna make, and I don't know if anybody wants to second it, but I would make a motion that at least for this year. We have a stipend for someone to be the Bethany Hoops coordinator.
I second that motion.
Anyone
Yeah,
opposed?
I'm just,
Would like to have
I'm
it?
looking to see, would they
Well-
be expected to be at like all of these events? Like the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday practices, the Saturday games and practices?
I mean,
If so, then we've gotta, like,
has
kind of
somebody
back it up.
typically been in charge?
Yeah,
charge-
Nick's never missed anything.
What's
yeah.
up? I mean, I don't like it,
I
but
think we,
I think yes, I think we have to look at, like, yeah, then what do we say?
Yeah,
I
you
think
gotta
right
count
now the
hours.
priority is that person arranges everything,
Yeah.
books everything,
Yeah.
plans it out,
Yeah,
figures out gauging interest,
yeah,
getting registration going,
Yeah.
hiring the people that need to be
Yeah.
there. And then communicates with us.
Yeah. so what do we think for an amount? Like, what do we think an
Well,
amount?
so the coaches are gonna be there, correct? So they don't have to be at every single event, this director of this program, right? They just need to coordinate it.
I mean, as
It-
far as
Site
one,
person,
second,
one of-
third, me and Nick were at everything. I was volunteer,
And
we
the
get a
person
game
will
most of the time.
like the person will also have to vet every volunteer and make sure that they have the appropriate certifications, trainings.
And K
background
through 1,
Hmm.
But I agree, Dave, I think that person has to, just like I'm thinking with the director,
I think it
has to be coordinated and in charge of all those things, but not necessarily physically.
Yeah.
yeah, all coaching, blowing the whistle, yeah. I mean, you saw the K through 1 last year, it's chaos with 30 kids in there. You need as many hands out there as you can get.
Mhm.
We need time to vet all those people, even if it's parent volunteers, they still should be vetted. and background
Yeah.
checked.
Yeah, agree.
So that's.
I
just
think
gonna take
this-
more time.
I kind of think that what's going on and what has gone on in our town and Parks and Rec, we really might need to have someone identified as the supervisor overseeing how things go, just because of where our community is right now. Next year it could be a different.
Yeah, but hang on,
different-
if you're gonna have them at every event, you're almost gonna have to pay them a full-time salary at that point. So, we can't justify somebody who's gonna be overseeing getting the program kicked off when you have all these coaches who are there already, because you're in an open space. So, I mean, I know my son did Bethany Hoops last year. There was at least 4 coaches there. So, I mean, to have a director have to sit there to watch the coaches.
What age was that?
I was gonna say, sometimes when my son did it, Nick was there going, can anyone help? And like,
Yeah.
I'd be out there helping, I don't play basketball.
Yeah, without saying, it's, I agree with what Dave's
Yeah.
saying, but we're in a situation where we don't really have a lot of coaches.
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
I was kind of supervising while coaching last
Yeah.
year, but other than like Craig, who was
Yeah.
obviously a parent volunteer, I mean, we have the two other coaches, we had Dave and sometimes Aiden would come to help out, but they weren't always consistently there, and they kind of really aren't people that I would want to leave a whole group with to have them do everything on their own, because God forbid a situation occurs, we need somebody who's older and responsible to be able to handle a crisis or
Right.
just anything else of that nature.
When you were at the middle school, do they have a site person that's there on staff?
It depends on
Just
the
the-
day.
just
Depends
the-
on the day.
Staff person, you mean?
A lot
No,
of
just the-
times
just the
security
custo-
would go home at a certain
Yeah, just the
hour.
custodian who's there.
So they're there basically just for the
No.
school
Yeah.
events?
Yeah.
Okay.
How many weeks does it run? Because I'm doing the math here, it's at least a minimum of 10 hours a week for all the programs.
Yeah, it's
So,
usually first week of December until the younger
Mid-March.
kids go into like second week of March, and then the playoffs for the older kids can extend all the way to like the end of March.
So you're looking at 4 months?
what if we, I don't see how we could possibly turnkey this by the beginning of December. Right? Cause it's already like early October, by the time we like identify somebody, and hopefully that could be easy, but like to get the registration, like what if we started it in January? What if we started it in January and it ran until mid-March, like, so we're cutting off.
Well, you're gonna lose a week, you're gonna lose a week in February because it's closed for a week, you're gonna lose a couple Mondays too. Because of holidays.
We're not doing it Mondays.
I think we can get it for the beginning of December, I really do.
Yeah.
It just, we just gotta get everything in place, because realistically, I mean, in the past, kind of everything had a lot of it.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the fact that we're even
You're ahead
talking
of
about it this soon, I think shows that we're way ahead of the ball. And if we can start getting this stuff figured out even throughout the rest of this month of October, if we can even get registrations out by the first week of November or the last week of October, I think that's plenty
Right.
of time.
Okay.
But I get what you're saying. though.
Yeah, I
think
just don't wanna rush it, knowing that like, we also have to go through some sort of verification process for anybody who's gonna volunteer.
Right, we just want to cross every T that, yeah.
And I don't know. if
I mean, and
have-
we did the,
How will we do that?
I think we might have the ability, if you have the names and, I don't know if it's birthdays or social security numbers or whatever, we should be able to run checks.
Can we do on my record? Interest, like add a question, interested in helping coach? And then if they check it, I'm just thinking like when I used to register.
Right, that is on
for-
this paper.
Like they do, like I did it when I registered Drew for like hockey, it's like, are you interested in being a parent manager, interested in being like a coach? And then we could reach out to them as they're saying yes, and then, see what we can do as like the process of like, checking them as they're, coming in, as they're coming in.
And the good thing too is that, like, I know Gabe said he was interested in doing Bethany Hoops if it runs
Yeah.
this year. He's already a town employee who's got
Yeah.
background check.
Right.
There's gonna be a couple
Yeah.
of people who do wanna help out that might already be through
Right.
the process, but obviously any new parents that do, we would have to go through that,
Yeah.
all those channels.
So I think we could propose to finance that we talk about a stipend, that we talk about trying to, that we are proposing a person, a coordinator, and that we talk to them about what piece of the salary line item and what piece of the program expenses line item we could allocate to that. It seems to me, this is the biggest program that we're gonna be running this year.
Right.
Sent kids in it last year,
I
Yeah.
think Leslie's,
Yeah.
Leslie's definitely gonna be a good resource for you,
Yeah,
Right.
To try to
because she
figure
can
out
pull up like what was spent last year for
Mhm.
T-shirts.
Right.
She can, help you with that regard. And, any other expenses for referees or that kind of rental for the space, that kind of stuff. So she will be a good resource.
Right. And then whoever is the coordinator could be the person listed on the two rentals and those.
Mm,
reasons.
Right.
Okay.
But do we need that? Do
But
we
we
need
need-
to identify someone sooner than that?
somebody needs to be identified to put that in. I don't know if any of us can like actually do it, or if it has to be a town employee that does it.
Are we ready to
Because-
do my rec? Is that program up and
Well,
running?
my rec was used for summer camp and,
Right.
yeah, it's my,
But who has to plug, the basketball information into that? If they hear so much, huh?
That would have been
It-
near Jen.
Jen, yeah, I don't know if Leslie could do it or not, but it would have to, we'd have to know what you want to put in, what, you know, the information. So yeah,
But we do have it, we don't have to like go out and get it, all we do have to do is put the information in and,
my rec has been up and running.
okay, so.
Yeah, my rec has
that's-
been up and running.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, schedule refs, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Is that just for the
Yeah.
4-6 group?
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, we don't need them for the younger kids, that should be,
Mm.
that's only for games too, so we wouldn't need them for Wednesdays until playoffs, because
Just for that.
games are only Saturdays.
I know this is gonna add, not much to it, but, I talked to the Orange Parks and Rec director, they had 4 teams in Orange last year, 4th, 5th, and 6th. We had 4 teams. I mentioned to him, we could do something like, we'll play each of their teams one time and then play our, instead of just playing the same
Yeah.
teams over and over again.
Mhm.
So like, they wouldn't include them in the playoffs, but we would still get to see the kids that they're gonna, ultimately gonna, essentially get the high school.
Really good idea, yeah.
So we play every Orange team once and every Bethany team twice, or whatever it may be, something like that,
Mhm.
depending on how many teams they have and we have,
Mhm.
so.
Sounds like fun.
You're right, though, that's great too, with introducing the kids that are gonna be meeting up at the.
Yeah, you know, they're probably gonna be
Right.
banging each other around.
That's
But, so we would do some games at their place and they would bring some here, but I mean, I don't know how that works with insurance and everything. With the other teams coming in, that was kind of my biggest hang up. Like if the Orange kids are coming, I mean, it's basically like when the middle school plays, they play teams from middle
Yeah.
school, I don't know
Yeah.
how that works, so. I don't know the answer to that.
That would be a Leslie question.
No,
I'm telling you.
You're very busy.
Resource
Listen,
person.
we don't know what's Parks and Rec.
Then it's right in the middle.
No,
It's like Bethany Orange.
He is an awesome resource,
Okay.
because if you're gonna get the information, I want you to get the right information.
So do we have to come back for a meeting to determine this stipend piece?
So I heard you make a motion before. And it was seconded about discussing a stipend, right, for somebody to oversee Bethany hoops. So we would set the proposed stipend amount and then.
Check with Leslie, because she'll know where it potentially can come from,
Okay.
because if you're
Yeah.
potentially also looking to hire a director at some point, is it gonna come out of that salary line, or is it gonna come out of programs, is it, I mean,
Yeah.
she will be the one who will help you identify
Okay.
where that can come out of.
Do we have to then come back?
So the
To determine
motion was just to like have a coordinator and separate out
Right.
stipend.
Right,
So we need.
So I think
So
we
you
can
can
vote on
approve
that
Yeah.
first.
And then get details.
And then
from
you get the
Leslie about
details
the
to come back to
specifics.
approve
And then
the
we come back
details.
to-
Right, and I think in theory, we could make a motion for a specific amount and second it and vote for it in this meeting now, but we're kind of knowing that we don't have enough.
Yeah, we don't,
information, so
yeah,
do need-
yeah,
I mean, you could approve the concept of
Right,
going forward with a stipended position, and then Jen could talk to Leslie about how it would all figure out, because if you have an idea of how many days and hours it's going to encompass,
Mhm.
then she can help you calculate
Mhm.
potentially, and if your, what your fee will be, is that going to be incorporated into the fee? Is it gonna be
Mhm.
considered a separate piece and coming out of a line item?
do we
So-
have to determine the fee for Bethany hoops
Everything.
now too?
Everything
Like,
You
would
should- you
be,
should probably
Yeah.
think-
it does make a lot of sense that the K1 is cheaper than the others, because it's 1 hour a week. There's no reps, there's nothing. I mean, unless we
What-
get volunteers, you might have to pay coaches, but other than that, it's.
What do
Right, how
we
much
think,
cost?
what do we think the price should be?
What was it in?
I was-
22?
Can I just,
$80.
I'll do some numbers on this, and report back on whatever our next meeting is, but. I mean, I could even send an email out, but I would like to get
I
this
think we have
rolling
to, yeah,
ASAP,
well, so I think we have to have another meeting then to
approve all this stuff.
talk about and then we can get this, yeah.
Right.
so like, can that information go with your discussion with Leslie before the next meeting, so that we.
That might be helpful. If you
Yeah, if I
calculate
just crunch
figures,
numbers
that
out.
will help be
Yeah.
helpful to you.
Yeah.
So that we can
Yeah.
get the feedback
Yeah.
directly based on that from
Yeah,
Leslie.
that-
and she
that
can
would-
give
that
her
would-
input on
Right, that
That would save a step, is if you kind of calculate what you think it's gonna, the cost will be, that'll help you determine.
How
Is it
much
gonna,
we
is the
might
stipend gonna be
save.
incorporated into that?
Right. Or,
does it make it more because you're gonna incorporate the stipend, or does it, can it be pulled from a separate line item?
And I'll follow up and find out just what the rent, like what the rental fee. Like
Okay.
per hour, like is or whatever,
I
so,
think Fred was right, though. I think they only charge us for the custodian for the,
yeah.
so.
okay,
Is it-
So like I'll find
I
out,
mean,
yeah, find out what that,
actually-
no, they're not there unless they're open for.
What time are they there on the nights? Cause they might not, on the Saturdays, they have them open specifically.
the
but I don't
schools are
know.
open until like 10 or 11 o'clock at night
So
for
they're there
cleaning.
anyway, so I think it's pretty cheap.
Yeah,
to do
there's
that.
energy there, so.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
right, that's what he's thinking about.
Yes.
yeah. They're totally.
Yeah, but at least we know to
Yeah.
help
so
figure
if
out
you
your
could
numbers, so I can
email-
ask, I can follow up with that tomorrow, or like what.
So if you
It
email
is,
me the fee for the gym, so we
Yeah.
know what we're looking at for
Yeah.
gym rental fees for the times that we want it, and if you can see kind of like what other places are charging,
Mhm.
what might make sense for us to charge.
Mhm.
I'll see if Leslie knows where we got the shirts from. if
She
there's
should be
any
able to pull
record.
that up, but they should be able to pull up a report for you with like any
Um,
reps, T-shirts, rentals for
Leslie's
the.
gonna love seeing my name in the email. Okay,
And then we're gonna have to check with Jen about access to the MyRec.
Mhm.
And when you get your person who's gonna be overseeing it, then we'd have to probably give them access to be able to oversee it.
Mhm.
What is that for, that says where, for, there's a t-shirt,
They
right?
all got separate colored t-shirts, so once they got with their teams, we usually had the coaches figure out what color they want, but this past year, we didn't wanna do that, because the shirts were late last year because of the late he ordered, so we just asked the coaches before the season even started, that we were coaching, what color would you like for your team? So we could just do that once we figure out who wants to volunteer coaching, we designate who's gonna be head coaches of each the separate team, we just say, okay, do you have a specific color you want for your team? If
It
not.
was just a
we're
t-shirt
gonna-
though, right? It wasn't like the
It was just a
reversible,
t-shirt.
second and third is reversible
Yeah.
t-shirts for the other two.
Yeah,
right?
the other one
Okay.
are just t-shirts, yeah, with numbers on
That's
that,
actually what's his name, Nolan's team.
if you got it custom.
General sizes, like who,
Yeah.
yeah, actually, in this, it asks for shirt size,
Mhm.
so we'll have to see like how much of this we can put into my rec.
Yeah.
So I can reach out to Jen about that piece. Okay. So let's go back for a second. So we had the motion for,
establishing it,
stipend.
yeah.
right. It was seconded, so I feel like we had discussion. I don't know if there's any other discussion. So are we ready to vote on taking this to Leslie to kind of explore whether, like, what the amount is? I'll bring that information back here to our next meeting. And then we can vote on like a final stipend amount to take to, right, that we would take to the board of,
You wouldn't, I don't think it would have to go to the Board of Finance because you're within the budget.
okay,
You're within your budget. You're not asking for anything
Additional
that's not
help.
appropriated, you know what I mean? Because you're working within the
okay,
budget,
scope of our budget. Well, that's
Mhm.
easy, okay.
unless Leslie tells you something differently, but you're working within your budget.
Okay. Are we ready to vote on that? Okay. So all in favor of exploring a stipend amount to be determined to pay someone to be the coordinator for the Bethany Hoops program for this year? Aye. Any nays? Abstentions? Motion passes. Okay. Last item, the trunk or treat. So we talked about wanting to have a table set up at the trunk or treat, and then I thought Leslie was gonna look at candy.
Candy and then alternatives for kids. that
Right.
have allergy.
Yep, okay,
She was gonna find out fast that.
yep.
Should we reach out and see what other? Like if I ask the fire guys, how much candy people usually give out? Like how many kids usually come to this? Huh?
A lot.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll help you buy the candy. I mean,
Yeah.
it's easy enough for us to buy the big bags of candy. That's not a problem. But, in the past, Janice had all like separate bags and everything, but I think for the ease
Yeah.
and for, just, I bought a Stop and Shop the other day, $1.29. I bought a big black bowl with Halloween decorations
Yeah,
all over, you
yeah.
just have a few of those on the
Yeah.
table. And sometimes you help the kids, you'll put it in their bag, so they're not going in for like a claw full. They're, you're kind of helping distribute it into their
Right.
bags,
So what she told
Right.
me was that, in the past, candy appeared to have come from leftover summer camp candy, and then the trinkets came from Stop and Shop, Oriental Trading, and Amazon, with the cost under $200.
Mhm.
but there is no summer candy left. The only thing that's down there right now, I believe, are Sour Patch something or other, so those,
Yeah, I
I won't
know.
go far.
Right.
What's down there, so some of the stuff was, I think,
Still now.
so, yeah.
The town attorney's working
Put
on
on some ice cream. yeah.
Right.
With the Sour Patch.
it.
I could be misremembering, but I feel like last meeting she said that, right, we could purchase also, like, we could purchase stuff and then submit receipts for reimbursement.
Yes,
Mhm.
but here's the thing, if you want us to do it. Because we don't get charged for tax, or municipality.
Yeah,
Sure,
So you're saving the tax fees
Yeah.
that can go toward more stuff
right,
Mhm.
instead of paying the tax.
instead of paying the tax.
Okay,
So if you think of where you want to get something from, we have an account with Amazon.
yeah,
Mhm.
If you want to research it and know what you want to get, we can put it through.
okay.
Um,
So will the town purchase the candy, like, or do you want us to?
I think that's what they're saying.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, just tell us
Yeah.
like, search what kind of bag, if you think there's specific mixed
Where do you
bags
get
of candy. What's that?
You can get it from Amazon.
You can get it from
You can
Amazon.
actually get it from
You can
Amazon
get it from Amazon, yeah.
or wherever they have an account.
Okay.
But like I said, to
Sometimes
save the
Amazon's got
tax,
nice
we can
deal.
get more because we're
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
spending it in tax.
Yeah, no, that makes
You know,
perfect sense.
yeah.
Does
So-
anybody on the committee want to take on picking out candy and trinkets for the trunk or treat?
How about the theme for trunk or treat too?
Didn't you say last time that we have inflatables
We
already?
do have some inflatables. If someone is available, like during the day at some point, we can go into the closet. There's like a shelf full
Right, because they were
Blow
always
ups.
outside the building,
Yeah.
right, right.
of, yeah,
The fire.
So we have-
Give us.
we have,
Or-
and the Park and Rec was usually positioned
Mhm.
right next to the BAA, next to the building, so.
Mm.
As far as I know, necessary extension
Extension
cords and things like that, need to make sure that we have enough of those,
Okay.
so.
What's the date again?
25th.
25th, that
Yeah.
Friday, whatever that Friday is.
Birthday.
Day before
Yeah.
Halloween.
Yeah.
So we have to let them know that we're coming.
Mhm.
And then we need to pick out candy and trinkets and send them to be ordered.
Mm.
Does anybody want to take that on?
Want me to pick up some candy?
That'd be great.
And work with Leslie.
Send it to
Work with
Leslie, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is,
Yeah.
I would rather we save the tax.
Absolutely, right.
Yeah,
Get more stuff,
yeah.
right, absolutely.
And-
Thank you for taking that on, Jane.
No problem.
I can email them to let them know that we're coming. Yeah, thank you, yeah. And then we do have to decide, like, are we actually decorating somebody's car? Or are we just gonna do like a table with some of these
Well,
inflatables?
where you're positioned, I think you could have a car there. Yeah, I think she might have had the van there, actually. Cause she was transporting she was transporting the table.
If we have a van
And-
there, we could put an inflatable in the van. Anyone have a skeleton?
Actually,
Because she was transporting the table.
Right, for
And all the candy
Yeah,
and then the
yeah.
inflatables and everything, so I
Yeah.
think she was actually using the van. I can.
She can.
I still can. Oh, there you go, there you go.
So do you want to drive the van?
Yeah.
Wanna do that?
What do you, but you also have to remember, who's gonna be manning the table?
We'll have to
Yeah.
set up.
Yeah. Okay. And are you
Should we all wear, sport?
Dressing up?
Should we all wear
Oh, there
sport
you go.
attire saying it's Parks and Rec? I'm just saying.
Well,
I
you
got a
have time
Johnny
to think, you
Goodrow
have time to
jersey.
think that one,
Or-
through, yeah.
Sure.
I'm saying it's easy, or we could dress it with something else, but
7 p.m. it starts, there's a parade, the last parade is at 8:30.
Setup, I think, starts at 5:30.
Yeah.
Setup.
What's that?
What time does setup?
Setup begins at 5:30.
5:30, that's what I thought, yeah.
I think.
And
those
if you're-
things
and
we
if you're
do
gonna let
keep,
them know you're
right?
coming-
Like, we're not making decisions.
I think
on
you're right.
programming, So we can email.
When you do let them know you're coming, just let them know that you want to be next to the BAA like they have been in the past, so.
Mm.
Okay. And then one of you guys will drive the van. With the table.
I mean, I can just bring my truck or something.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if you've got the capacity to put, we have the tables here, if you want to we'll take one of the tables from here. And then,
We'll figure that out.
Or we could just have a bunch of inflatables
I'm not done with that.
and, yeah, and not.
That sounds good.
if somebody wants to come at some point, but I mean, I'll come on a Saturday if some people want to check out the inflatables and see what we have to. Blow up. I know we do.
Actually, your dad is just someone in my house. I have the ice cream truck. That would be a cool thing to hand candy out of.
Oh. That would
There was a new one,
Especially
that
if
one.
we figure out
There was a
like
new one,
ice
that
cream
one.
themed trinket.
Oh, now you're getting, can't we just do toppings?
I mean, we could.
4 sprinkles, yeah.
Be like a.
You know, like M&M.
Well, I'm gonna assume that you guys are gonna want to try to meet again before any of this happens, so do you want to think of a potential,
Mhm.
you know, so you can finalize all of these.
I'll waste some hours on Pinterest.
Right?
Um,
I actually have a Batman trunk or treat. Thing. That I never opened.
okay.
I've never-
It's in a box in my house. Paula, are we permitted to go back really quick, just because in that
Yeah.
email from Leslie that I just remembered, is some info just about hoops to share out.
Okay,
So the shirts were $2,000, which did include $385 for championship shirts. There was 100 kids, is that what you said about?
She was paying $20 a shirt. She's got basic t-shirts.
Yeah, connection.
That's
So
not.
I will tell you, I have a shirt guy that we use at work who I think charges us either $5 or $7 a shirt.
Yeah, especially for the,
Yeah.
like, the K1.
That's a lot.
Same T-shirt.
That is-
no
that is a
numbers.
lot.
Yeah, that should be no more than $6 a shirt.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sure
The
there are
reversible
Where did we
might
go?
be.
Where did we-
Minimum
oh.
press.
The reversible, but we
What did
didn't
we
even
go
get
through?
reversible.
What did we go
last year.
through?
We did last year, no.
I'm surprised they didn't
They
use-
did last year, with just a t-shirt. from second
I'm
grade.
surprised they didn't use Blanchett.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because my kids have from kindergarten, the reversible.
The reversible, like.
Right.
They paid
Like,
$20 a
it's on
shirt.
them.
did she say where those were from, or just gave you the amount?
Minuteman Press,
I don't know where that is.
I think it's in Milford.
I'm sure there are,
Like, there's Blanchetts too, like that's
There's
such
one
a
I-
big one that,
They're- Blanchett's is tough to work with.
well, yeah, you don't take the right order.
What
There's
about
also Camden
customing?
Sports, I got a connection.
Customing's a little expensive.
what about the, is
Custom
there a
make it
place in
expensive,
Prospect?
yeah.
Was that triple stitch,
Is it triple?
city stitches and derby? I order stuff all the time. from
Whenever,
there.
do you wanna reach out to them, get some pricing?
Yeah. I
And
was-
what is
yeah.
what was the design? Just,
It's just,
just
it was
black?
Bethany hoops and there's basketball and that.
okay, so nothing like super crazy.
Yes, it's not special
One-
expense.
one-
basic.
one
Yeah.
color.
Yeah,
Pretty basic,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, Bethany hoops.
You can spend 2,000, you get good stuff now, actually.
You're like, no, it's 2000, try that?
Okay, why don't we see if we can get, like, if you can get a price from that guy, I can get a price from the guy that we've used in Watertown before. Did you say you know somebody in Prospect?
No, I need somebody at Camden Sports, but
You think this will be a cheaper price?
So
Yeah,
about
yeah.
100, but then like.
I'm a six candy.
Some of them are reversible jerseys, they'll be a little bit more. The K1 is very easy and cheap. Fourth and sixth probably cheap too, all they need is numbers on the back, we don't need
Yeah.
numbers on.
Do we have to do a reversible jersey?
it.
For second and third?
But it's for second
The
and
thing
third.
that's good for the second and third graders is we have them switch teams all the time.
Got it, so
Now,
that was why-
we could just have pennies, I think we really could if we don't wanna, but the kids like.
Kids love a shirt, kids love a jersey.
They do grow out of it quick though, but.
My son is all about. the
What did we
jerseys.
have? We had about 30 kids in second and third last year. Like, hey, they didn't all come, but I think we had 30 in the
I
program.
think 30 was registered, and we would usually have like 24.
My son
25.
playing the board. Hockey. Switch stuff.
Then there was a coach award. Coach awards from Amazon that were $366. Basketballs and covers from Amazon, $344. What's the cover?
Basketball coverage.
Maybe it's like the bag, the basketball, and then
Maybe.
Referees were $1,600 and
Let
then
me ask a
the,
question, were we using basketballs from here, or were we using the school's
We're
basketballs?
using our basketballs, yeah, we brought over bags.
Bags of
Yeah,
basketballs,
so we
for
need-
the older kids though, we had the luxury of, I'm the middle school basketball coach.
Yeah.
So I just pulled out the good balls for the older
Yeah.
kids.
Right.
The balls that they had at the, at BCS were horrific, though. They were
The
like,
VCF ones were bad.
Do we need more?
do we need-
Or how many more do we need? That's something you guys could,
we'll have to go with.
well, it's, no, but it's that, like, you know, maybe like whoever gets the stipend and whoever is helping run it can check and
We
make
did
sure,
buy a
and see
bunch
what,
of balls
and see what supplies we need.
Right, but that was what they spent last
Yeah.
year.
Yes, do we need more, maybe we don't.
Referees were 1,600, the school costs for gym and janitorial services were just shy of 6,000.
Yeah, makes sense.
And the payroll for this coming year, well, for this year, fiscal year 25 is 8763.
But based on those numbers, how much is that? How much is that?
With the payroll for,
Says payroll budgeted for fiscal year 25 at eight thousand
for
seven
Bethany
hundred
Hoops,
sixty-three.
Huh?
what's that going towards?
What is it?
Payroll.
8,763 says payroll, so was that the,
Probably the
Reps.
hours that I worked, that I wasn't volunteering, and then Gabe and AJ and Aiden.
any of the paid coaches?
That was it.
Is that,
Those are the only big ones, right? The
um,
fourth, fifth, and sixth are volunteers, all, right? For the parents, for the most part, or do you get it for them?
I never. paid.
Hmm.
There were a lot of years where I didn't get paid for all,
Mm.
and then there were some where I started writing my hours. So that's probably for the hours that I worked, that Gabe worked, that AJ worked, that Aiden worked, that.
Mm.
I wonder if she has a breakdown, I can
Mhm.
ask her for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she should be able to give you a little more detail on that.
Because based on that, you're like almost at $20,000, and we're charging 100 kids $100, whatever, no wonder it's leaving money.
Yeah.
Right.
How much in that, how much in on that one?
Payroll.
I'm asking you, I'm just
Just
math,
not.
right?
Well, if you incorporated the t-shirt into the fee, even if it's $10,
Yeah.
No,
It's
exactly,
20
yeah.
apparently.
oh, depending on where you're getting, yeah, getting it
No,
from,
that's
yeah.
what it was last year. Okay.
Okay, I'll see if she can give us a better breakdown.
Mm.
Okay. That was our last item, is the trunk or treat. Do we want to set a date for our next meeting? Or maybe some preliminary agenda items?
Well, we already talked about the. The director job position, we're gonna do some work on and
Yeah.
definitely.
Stuff.
Realistically, when do you think we'll be able to post that?
Well, you've got to really hone it down, you've got to,
And that has
Yeah,
the job
yeah.
description and then
End of the month?
figure out the salary question. I think that's a good goal.
Right.
And I think if we can do a Bethany Hoops coordinator,
Mhm.
and we
Right.
don't have to, that, we don't have that pressure.
Mhm. Yeah,
On us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even if they get hired during the season, it's already, all the work is done.
Right.
also that line item for budget,
So-
too, is- for salaries is not very much. less.
2 weeks from now. So we've got the job description, Bethany Hoops, and then what? Just finalizing
Trunk or
trunk or treat.
Mhm.
Pretty much same.
Right.
Well, like I said, some of them are holding places
Right,
until,
and then, like,
until it's
we need to
finalized,
not
yeah.
have Procedures next time, because that's,
I mean, you could just have it as a holding spot, so that, it, you know,
right,
and then you just say no action in the minutes.
right. So 16th, do we want to do the 6th, like 2 weeks out?
I cannot do the 16th, and I know this room is used on the 16th.
Okay.
So of the 17th, or did somebody say Thursday was not good for them?
It's just some Thursdays for me, but that Thursday would be fine.
It's fine, I'll be coming right, I'll be 10 minutes late, but
And I know I'm not part of the commission, but I would pay around for Thursdays either to come and talk, but it doesn't matter.
You can take a break.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that work?
If you're here in spirit.
Yeah, right.
It might. I have to look at my calendar.
That week, does the 15th work for anybody? Because the 16th and 17th, I would have to do remote again.
I could open it up if I had to.
I can't make it on the 15th. I have 2 back-to-back work meetings that night until probably around 9.
Because that's Columbus Day.
Yeah,
Everything's,
because my Monday meetings
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
are now Tuesday.
My house is at the firehouse on Tuesday,
Yeah.
so I don't have a babysitter.
Dave, Thursday is not good for you?
I mean, I'd have to do remote again if it's Thursday. Because
I just know this room is booked that Tuesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, yeah.
Tuesday, Wednesday.
I'm not sure what other meetings are going on for P and Z and inland and wetlands.
It's the 17th.
So we have a month, we have
That works.
4 or 5 for 17. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay, so 17th, Dave, you're okay coming virtual again?
Yeah, 17th I could do virtually.
Someday we'll see you in person again.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we'll book it as a hybrid meeting again, so that'll be fine.
Okay, so 17th at 6:30 hybrid with 3 agenda items. I'll get those over to you, that way we can get the agenda out.
And if you want to put the minutes from this meeting into that meeting, then we, you know, you can approve those at
Oh,
that
right,
meeting as
right,
well.
I'll add that, okay, approval.
Yeah, so it would be the October
Um,
2nd minutes. And then it would be, you can leave policies and procedures that just would be no action taken that night.
Okay,
And then your director job description and posting discussion, Bethany Hoops discussion, trunk or treat discussion,
okay,
okay? So everything basically stays the same. I'll just change the meeting codes, the
Yeah.
dates and the minute dates. And
Yeah, so hopefully everything's set as far as trunk or treat by next time, right?
yeah.
And then.
Yeah,
I'll
I'll
hopefully
I'll
have.
go on for candy tomorrow when I'm off, and just submit, like, yeah, and just submit,
To Leslie,
yeah,
that's perfect, okay,
yeah,
thank you.
just be like, this is the, like, just a medley of candy.
I'll try to have some numbers we could go on as far as like how much we're gonna charge for hoops, and then if we talk to Leslie about what we could do for the stipend, then.
Right, and maybe I'll even see if she can come to that next meeting.
okay,
That might not be a bad idea to have her here. in
Maybe
case
if we
we have
have ice cream
questions
trinket.
related.
because I don't, as far as I know, she wouldn't have any other meetings that week,
I think it's
so
a pretty
that
cool idea.
hopefully, unless she's got some other
Like you
personal
can
stuff
share
going on, I
Right,
don't know, that she
right.
would be able
I'll ask
Does
her.
it,
Yeah,
does it, like,
absolutely,
have your name on it?
absolutely.
Is it wrapped? Is it like?
Well, his dad was at my house during this meeting, checking it out.
Okay. Do you want to
Make
make
a
a motion for?
Yeah. Can we have a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion.
Yeah.
We don't vote on
I need to
that.
say all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
So
Aye.
we're adjourned. 8:46.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
No problem, guys.